When it comes to innovation on the track, Odinthal Racing Products leads the pack. From the highly popular EasyGP camera mounts to our tough case to GoPro case, racers everywhere trust ORP for strength, reliability, and precision. We're proud to be the #1 engine mount manufacturer in the USA. And with our new Easy Bumper Retainer System, you won't get caught out with a failed bumper bolt again. Odinthal Racing Products. Lead or get left behind.
Welcome to the future of kart race preparation. Kartsim Pro North America. Featuring laser-scanned North American kart circuits and precision-tuned kart physics developed using real telemetry, dyno and tyre data, Kartsim Pro North America delivers the most advanced and realistic kart simulation experience available today. Whether you're training for race day, refining your lines, or shaving tenths off your personal best, Kartsim Pro gives you pro-level insight without leaving your home. Trusted by world champions, coaches, and karting enthusiasts alike, this is where virtual practice translates into real-world performance. Experience the thrill, the challenge, and the edge. Kartsim Pro North America, use code ROK20 to get 20% off today. Tyre data, Kartsim Pro North America delivers the most advanced and realistic kart simulation experience available today. Whether you're training for race day, refining your lines, or shaving tenths off your personal best, Kartsim Pro gives you pro-level insight without leaving your home. Trusted by world champions, coaches, and karting enthusiasts alike, this is where virtual practice translates into real-world performance. Experience the thrill, the challenge, and the edge. Kartsim Pro North America, use code ROK20 to get 20% off today.
Welcome back to the Orlando Kart Center, and welcome to round 2 of the Florida Winter Tour presented by ROK Cup. DJ Clark up here in the commentary booth alongside Jackson Lambros once again as we get ready for heat #1 across the day. Drivers have had plenty of time to go out onto the track, get themselves situated, but this is going to be the first time we see true wheel-to-wheel action. And Jackson, let's start at the very beginning of this. We were here a couple of weeks ago in, frankly, frigid conditions. Things have changed around a little bit, looking at great weather across the weekend. That's going to change a lot of the setups and a lot of the preparation these karters bring to this round 2.
Absolutely. A track so nice. We race here twice, but those conditions have definitely caught a lot of people off guard. Talking to Chase Gassey at Lee earlier on, phenomenal example, nearly the exact same chassis, the exact same Bennett that he rolled in with at the start of round #1 and was complaining that seemingly he couldn't find anything in the kart that was formerly there, despite component-wise being essentially the exact same kart, DJ. We're seeing a lot of guys throughout qualifying, throughout practice that we thought were going to come in very likely to defend this title and work their way to kind of end this third and final round once we head to Palmetto on a really high note. But a lot of guys, shockingly, despite being the same venue, these temperatures have become a moving target for a lot of these guys. And I think a lot of the expectation now is a lot of guys who maybe missed round 1, some phenomenal talent coming in to begin their racing year here in round #2, getting an opportunity to shine. And a lot of guys who were really strong in the opening round getting started on the back foot. But everything about this weekend is getting set up for a championship. Maximize your point output, even if that doesn't necessarily mean a win on Sunday. Get yourself to the front as much as possible. Maximize your chances of leading that championship by the time we head to Palmetto.
Exactly. And let's remind ourselves about those points and about those championship numbers as we go in. You score those points in the pre-final and the final themselves, but these heat races that we're going to see 3 of them over the course of the next, let's call it 30 hours or so, those are going to be cumulative points that add to your position, and that those points determine your starting position in that pre-final. How do they determine where they start out in these heats? Well, that was qualifying, which took place just a little bit ago, and that set the field. You will start in the same position for all 3 heat races. You will then gain points, and again, those points will determine where you start in the pre-final itself. So, a lot of stakes here on the line, and a change coming in this time around. As karts head out onto the circuit for the first time, we have combined all of our shifting categories into one, let's call it Uber shifter group, and they will all be out onto track right now. That's going to change things up a little bit, I think, make for some pretty exciting racing, if I have to be honest.
Absolutely. Not only do you have numerous levels of talent, but you, again, have numerous levels of horsepower, different levels of output. Our senior group, if you will, still running that KZ power plant. I think most of these guys still on TM motors. But again, for our Masters and Super Masters, they did not make that migration in the off-season over to that more powerful KZ power plant. So they're still on that ROK shifter, more spec-oriented motor, and that's going to continue to make things really, really interesting as a handful of Masters and Super Masters have actually joined that rank as well. But still a shockingly good turnout here for our KZs. No Mateus Morgado, which I think is frankly going to make things a lot more interesting here throughout our senior division. But still, Sodi Racing's Dominic Karai looking to make it a 2 in a row for Sodi. We'll be starting alongside Vaughn Beasley.
Yeah, Vaughn Beasley, Dominic Karai up at the front of the field in this KV class. That's going to be interesting. But for me, my biggest eyes are back in the Masters category. Cole Mathewson and Skitchy Barnes. We saw the 2 of them, the Rocket Racing and the Maranello Kart, absolutely going at it, hammer and tongs in the last round. And I think that's going to be an interesting battle. Morn Van Tak was another one that we talked quite a bit, quite extensively about in round 1. He's going to be rolling off 4th in that Masters and Super Masters category. 1st in the Super Masters class, but we know Morn's going to be trying to be able to get his way onto a general podium. And so we're going to have to see what he is able to do in class.
But again, you look at your Masters front row, could not be more different. You've got a full-time sailor who's using his, income to go racing, and then you've got the head honcho of Rocket Racing in the form of Cole Mathewson. Going to be very, very special to see who comes out on top, because DJ, that was a phenomenal duel, but 3 classes on the same racetrack to get us started for round number 2.
And you can see there on your screen, it will be a split start for these cars. Looks like the 421 of João Alves having some problems maybe. Not really sure what's going on there. Are we going to get a wave around? We are going to get a wave around here, it looks like. They're going to send him back for one more lap. Something going on there with Alves, and it looked like the 420, 520 maybe. That's Luis Quinhos. So some problems there. Not entirely sure what happened, but we're going to send it back around for one more reconnaissance lap. We do apologize. We're having a little bit of a technical difficulty with one of our cameras. That's why we can't get you that sort of patented head-on shot of the front grid. Once we get that up, we are working on it right now. Once we get that up and going, we'll bring that to you as quickly as possible.
So the communication in the driver's briefing this morning, despite all 3 classes running together, was still going to be a shared start. So no split in the grid, no guys waiting, not having the KZs go out, waiting a little bit, and then the green flag for the Masters and the Super Masters. I think that might have been what confused a couple of guys a little bit further back, would be my theory. Or again, a couple of grid spots further back. You saw that kind of gap there between João Alves and then your front row with Mathewson and Barnes. And I think that might have been our issue, and a little bit of lack of communication. Obviously, our guys, Chuck Yoder, our race official, was making it very clear what the procedure was there. And I think a couple guys not, unfortunately, fully getting the message through. A couple of last-minute walk-ons as well. Former Gonzalo Porte, Edgardo Ortiz, Joe Alves actually sent all the way to the back of the field there, it looks like. So,
that
of
may
course,
have
it
just
could
be
have been
timing and scoring on terms of where they came across. So we're going to get that updated here shortly. Everybody's starting to make their way on in.
Let's try that again, and you can see a lot of these guys rolling the wheels back. And again, that's to keep the stickiness from the tires and also preload the chain. But the green flag finally out. 4 lights coming on, and for the first time in round number 2, we're going racing at OKC.
And there they go down into that first corner. We're getting ready to be able to take a look at the action. Again, bear with us through those camera difficulties. It does look like out front it's going to be Vaughn Beasley that will lead the way here as they try to get themselves back and sorted around again. In these shifters carts, a little bit easier to get off the line. Beasley will lead from Karai. I think Horseman's going to close in third behind him.
If you lean back enough in those carts, you can genuinely see the front tires get a little bit of airtime. 50 horsepower and power to weight ratio that rivals a Formula One car. You don't get that experience in a lot of other forms of grassroots motorsports. So very cool to see shifter carts, this many coming off the line at the same time. We saw some good running from Dominic Karai in round number 1. He's wasting 0 time here to put the pressure on that Ralf Schumacher machine. The 425 of Vaughn Beasley, a newcomer who we didn't see in round number 1, but started on the pole position, got the purple lap in his first time out. And immediately we saw that pressure from Karai, but Blake Horseman very much making it, well, he's making it a 3-horse race.
He's certainly trying to now, and we've got to talk here a little bit about what Skitchy Barnes has been able to do. Let's take a look at that. Back in 4th place. This is a little bit of an interesting battle. Barnes, Hart, and Mathewson, and Skitchy's been able to get the jump on the 416 of Paulie Hart, get over Cole Mathewson, and that has been able to give him that little bit of a pick in between himself and his closest competitor in that Masters category.
You just see him a little bit further back in your picture there, that kind of ketchup and mustard red and yellow machine. And for Skitchy Barnes, this is phenomenal. You want a guy in a different class to kind of, for lack of a better terms, act as a meat shield, right? Not have the guy directly on your rear bumper being someone to try and overtake you. And for Paulie Hart, it's absolutely something he's got to deal with as quickly as possible if he wants any shot of trying to get on to the podium. 7 minutes to go, then we'll do the twin sticks and do it for 2 more laps. Still Vaughn Beasley at the front of the field. Blake Horseman was trying to close that gap to make it a 3-cart battle, but Karai is the only one to this point who's been able to stay lockstep.
Yeah, that gap at about 0.4 of a second, and it's closed down massively. That's the battle up front there. Karai trying to close on in if he can. Looked like he had a little bit of a move down there into turn 9, but it's not going to play itself out. Now down into turn 12 they go. 12 and 13, they come back onto the track. Vaughn Beasley leading across the start-finish line there. We're starting to get a little bit of those views from our camera. Great thinking there. I think that's a handheld from our camera crew. Want to give them a huge shout out, as we always do here for ROK Cup and the Florida Winter Tour. They are some of the best in the business. Again, addressing some of those technical gremlins here early on. But the battle up front, down to 2.5 of a second between Beasley and Karai. They start to break away from the field. The gap in the farther back of the field stands at about 2 seconds.
And we were talking again about the difference in sheer timing between the KZ Power and the ROK-powered shifters. So maybe not at this point in the race, but once we get to the pre-final on Saturday night and the finals on Sunday, that is absolutely something that could be a factor. Once we get to the point where we could see overlapping classes, we're already seeing overlapping classes, but blue flag traffic definitely potentially going to be a factor at some point this weekend. And for Karai, that could be a critical tool he could have in his arsenal in trying to make a move right now in clearing Vaughn Beasley. Karai, though, is going down low. Beasley is seeing him there, and you just saw it right there into turn number 4, DJ. A little bit of a flick, late flick to the middle of the track, trying to cover. You haven't seen too many moves here into the junkyard. I think just too much speed, too late of a lunge there to maybe make it move. This is going to be your prime position, though. Coming out of junkyard corner into turn number 9, you can see a little bit of a lunge there from Dominic Karai to try and make it work. He's definitely closing the gap, using everything he can in that draft to have Beasley punch that hole in the air for him out in front, that penultimate corner of turn 12. Another great opportunity as well. But as we get to the halfway point here in our opening heat, Vaughn Beasley still able to hold off Dominic Karai.
able to hold him off. And what impressed me a little bit earlier on was the fact that Beasley was running, dare I say, defensively down to the inside.
Absolutely.
He was trying to hold him off a little bit, and it didn't cost him that much time. Now it looks like, even though Karai is holding in at about 0.3 of a second, Beasley's still not, he's a little bit closer, but he's not running a more defensive line.
And again, I think that's also realizing you got to pick your battles when you realize you can get away with it, because at this point, Blake Horseman, 4 seconds clear of these guys. So you're able to go down low, white line it, if you will, to go and defend and know that you can get away with it. And we haven't seen too many guys really make the outside line work in any of these corners. It's been a late send on the brakes. It's been going side by side and kind of forcing someone onto the long way around. The only time we really saw that was GP Junior, round number 1, Josh Bergman around the outside to take that win in GP. But for a lot of these guys, again, these karts are so much faster, so much heavier. Grip is at an absolute premium. And at a corner like this, the long sweeping right-hander, turn 11, we've seen guys get up into the marbles and nearly into the wall trying to make that outside move stick. So for a lot of these guys, again, coming out of Junkyard corner, into Junkyard maybe, but this spot right here, turn number 9, gonna be your prime opportunity to overtake.
Yeah, that's going to be a good opportunity. I also think we'll see a couple of moves down, of course, into turn 4. We've seen that play off quite often, but again, that tends to be an area where you can get a bit of a cutback. The difference, though, in these shifter karts is the fact that because you're able to have that variable speed, you are actually shifting in these machines. You're able to take a later dive. There, that's what I'm talking about out of Von Beasley.
Yep.
Defensive line going down into turn 4. The standard line on that is to run that a little bit wider and try to keep the momentum up through the corners. Now, it's not nearly as important in the single speeds to keep your minimum speed up as it is in these shifters. They are a little bit more arresting in the way that you drive them.
Exactly.
However, it's just interesting out of Beasley that he doesn't seem to be losing lap times with that more middle-of-the-road kind of approach.
And I think with the repave, which was the huge conversation coming into round 1, we saw guys, especially coming out of Junkyard and into turn 10, go really, really wide, almost going over the white line and arcing that as wide as possible, being careful with the sleeping policeman, obviously, but still just getting that extra wide arc into the corner. Right here, exactly where I'm talking about on exit. The little bit of curb there from Beasley, but you can see him, both these guys, middle of the racetrack. Beasley kind of trying to give Karai that, let's call it, trouble to make a decision, right? Making that RS kart as wide as possible, and whichever way, whether it's low or high, it's going to be a narrow gap there for Karai to try and jam it on through, but he tried with a late send there into Junkyard, DJ. You saw him go a little bit later on the binders there to, if anything, close that gap just a smidge, but you still see Beasley trying to defend down low, and Karai trying to cross him up, but just not able to find the power in that Sodi kart right now.
No, not able to get it on, but he has closed this down in the last lap. But as we've seen again in times past, he does lose a little bit of time there going down through the final corner, and that's to his own detriment. It comes back to bite him a little bit. There they see come back into frame. Beasley's got this gap down to about 2.5 of a second, call it a quarter second. 1 minute left on the clock, plus 2 minutes as we know, so that'll probably be 3 laps to go at the line for these drivers. They come down into 6. To see if there's anything to be had, looking for what you had talked about, Jackson, to see if there's a little bit of poke to the inside for Beasley. He takes another look, not able to get it.
A little bit further back, great recovery drive for Joe Alves. Again, potentially had issues. Big lunge to the outside there. Karai continuing to try the crossover there. Coming into turn number 10, these guys are absolutely bumper to bumper here. And it'll be the twin sticks coming out this time by, or excuse me, the next time by. And it has been a long 10-minute study session for this Sodi kart pilot, the 496 of Dom Karai, to try and find a way through, try and find any opening possible to clear Von Beasley early on, still not able to get through. Quick look a little bit further back through the field. Not only has Polly Hart been unable to clear Sketchy Barnes, Cole Mathewson has now been able to work his way through, so that's a Masters 1-2 out in front. Polly Hart now down to 7th overall, and Morn Von Tonk, a guy we saw so long in round 1 battle with the younger guys, has struggled further back, about P8 overall right now, still ahead of Bonvin Quinones and Juan Esteban, but it is an all-out battle in KZ to get us started here.
Yeah, they're really going at it up at the front of this field. There are the twin sticks displayed here at this point. That is the indicator for 2 laps to go. Gap coming down just under a quarter of a second. They come through turn 3 right now. Whoa, and I thought Karai was going to have a look, but I think he got a little bit sideways coming out of 3, and that certainly caught him by the off. But here he comes down into turn number 4, or 5 rather, muscles his way on through, and Dominic Karai is in the lead.
Nearly looped it coming out of turn number 3 there. I think it was running wide open onto the new paved runoff, but Karai able to jam it into turn number 4, but he's not out of the woods yet. Out of Junkyard Corner, Beasley looking for a way around. He likes the high line coming into turn number 10, tries the crossover once again. You can see the entire nose of the cart go up. He was on the power immediately, trying to close that gap once again. Another big send there into turn number 12. Is there enough horsepower in that RS cart? It is a dogfight to get us done here in heat number 1.
Here they go down into turn 2, cut off the way for Dominic Karai. Again, a little bit of a slide there from him. Beasley tries to look around the outside going into turn number 4. That doesn't play out. Now into 5. Beasley tries to go for the crossover. That doesn't play out as well. Big shot in the back of the cart there. I think Beasley's getting a little bit hot under the collar.
Yeah, a little bit of contact there. I'm not sure if he was intentionally trying to move him out of the way as we head into the Junkyard Corner. What is the move now? Beasley off
lost
throttle.
a lot of time there.
Not sure if he might have missed a shift there coming out of Junkyard because he was nowhere near Dominic Karai. And that means at the white flag, Dominic Karai going to be able to win this one potentially at the buzzer. Just needs one more corner. And at the line, heat number 1 is going to go to Dominic Karai. Von Beasley very much, though, in lockstep with him the entire time. DJ, that's going to be a battle for us to look at throughout the weekend.
And looking at Beasley, I wonder if that bumper was a little bit pushed back. It was kind of flipping and floating a little bit near the end, and that big shot we saw him take to the back of Dominic Karai coming out of turn 5. Hurt him a little bit. João Alves will round out in 3rd and Horseman in 4th. Skitchy Barnes 5th, Cole Matthews in 6th. That's going to be the top of your Masters category. Looks like Morn Von Tock will be able to hold on to the Super Masters class. We are going to jump over to a quick break here, and then we'll be back with you shortly for the next round of racing for Florida Winter Tour.
Welcome to the future of kart race preparation, Kartsim Pro North America. Featuring laser-scanned North American kart circuits and precision-tuned kart physics developed using real telemetry, dyno and tyre data, Kartsim Pro North America delivers the most advanced and realistic kart simulation experience available today. Whether you're training for race day, refining your lines, or shaving tenths off your personal best,
You're watching a Jason Larea creative ROK Cup USA production.
Welcome back to the Orlando Kart Center as we get ready for SV Senior Florida Winter Tour Heat number 1. Alan Isambard leads the way here from Caden McQueen, Davin Roberts, and Blake Nash. Don't count out the likes of Edgar Rodriguez or Sebastian Venegas as well. They're going to be very interesting to see what they are able to do. Of course, any grid that Blake Nash is in, you've always got to circle him as well as Caden McQueen, but Isambard's been the one to keep an eye on.
Oh, absolutely. And I mean, Blake Nash kicking himself over what could have been. There was an extra Sharpie marker on his fuel tank after round 1, only half a pound short after that disqualification. And I mean, if it was 2 minutes longer, we could have talked about him potentially being on the podium or maybe even in victory lane. But Caden McQueen, your championship leader, alongside your round 1 winner to get us started here in SV.
Allen going to lead us to the green. Caden alongside of him as they come down into the starting zone. And the green flag flies. We go racing here from the Orlando Kart Center. Looks like it's a good getaway there for Isambard around the inside. As usual, we normally see those drivers on the outside struggling a little bit, but Caden McQueen able to keep up the pressure to the inside. It's going to be single file for the first 5.
You see how quickly, though, Isambard covers down low. Talking to Caden McQueen this morning, he felt like with everybody, again, this being an engine raffle system, you need to be reserved with the driving because any immediate aggression, especially from P2 on back, that's going to chop the head off of the snake, right? If you have a better motor, you're not able to fully close it. But Caden McQueen immediately is putting the pressure on, tries the long way around in a cross-up coming into turn number 10. Is there enough momentum? In that 342, Sodi gets back in line. Are we going to see another move into 12? No, stay single file. And that Ryan Perry Motorsports machine of Davin Roberts just behind their leading Blake Nash, Edgar Rodriguez, and Venegas. Here's another look. McQueen nearly getting into the back of that Rocket Racing machine, the 301, and another cart very wide there. I think that was Blake Nash dropping back.
Yeah, it might have been. We'll get an idea of that when they cross back to the line to see where Nash has settled back down to. Chase Gassiet-Lee moving his way up through the field, but we've got to keep our eyes focused on Isambard and McQueen as Caden McQueen looks very, very feisty up for the challenge. He almost sent a move down into this corner on the last time of asking. Going to try it again down into Junkyard Turn, and he gets it done. But here comes the fight back from Alan Isambard. It's going to be too wide. Davin Roberts having a little bit of a look around the outside. Isambard's got the preferred line. He's got the preferred position. Up into P1, and it's a 3-cart breakaway up at the front of the field, but this battle for P1 not done yet.
That is immediately going to bring Blake Nash, Chase Gassiet-Lee, Sebastian Venegas right back into the mix. McQueen trying to go down low on exit. Roberts looking for an open spot. He likes the outside of Isambard. Isambard sending it down low. McQueen unable to get there, and what a move. Davin Roberts, nuclear stuff, able to get 2 positions gained in turn number 1.
Very, very heads-up play from Davin Roberts to be able to get that 312 down to the inside and take it away. Now it's going to be Isambard, but Caden McQueen starting to fight back along the outside of Isambard. Gives up the ghost, coming down into turn number 6. They'll be in single file order. Blake Nash only falling back down to 5th place after that wide run that we had. Now McQueen takes a little bit of a look to the outside, and welcome to the party here, Rodriguez and Nash.
Here's a late lunge to the outside, nearly contact there as Nash sends it to the outside. And I believe Edgar Rodriguez was the one able to get through just barely. Those two will reshuffle, but it is now Isambard, your leader there. You saw McQueen try and fight back, but Isambard able to make that move stick just for the time being here as we come across the stripe, not even halfway home in our opening heat. And it could have been a runaway between Isambard, McQueen, and Roberts, but you saw those 3 immediately throw haymakers at each other, just like this one from McQueen to try and get to the lead. Immediately, Isambard fighting back, but now the door's open for Roberts to try and go through. You see everybody trying to be at the front of this pack right now.
I don't know if that's the play here with the volatility that we're seeing. I think it's better to be maybe 3rd back in line. I'm going to be looking at Blake Nash. He rides 4th in this line right now. He's in pretty good stead. He may want to try to hold on to it. It does look like Caden McQueen's got a little bit of a breakaway. Here comes Nash down to the inside.
Gassiet-Lee looked like trying to go with him. Oh, big step up. Believe that's Venegas, the 355 major contact.
That's Sangera.
Yes, one of the other Sodis, I believe, also
I
involved.
think that was a Nash. That was Vangera and the Nash that got pushed up.
Oh, my goodness.
We check back up to the front of the field, however, and a little bit of a breakaway as Rodriguez and Nash, courtesy of that battle, have fallen back down to the tune of about a second. McQueen and Isambard now off in their own zip code.
Levi Sangera and Gabriel Nite, the 2 involved there. We'll drop them back to 16th and 17th, respectively. Now we reach the conditions that these guys want to be in. Immediately kind of cutting the head off of the snake here with Isambard trying to close that gap to your championship leader, Caden McQueen. And for Edgar Rodriguez, he's going to hope he just gets a little bit of a nudge from that Nash Motorsports machine just behind him to try and close that gap just a little bit. He'll also be hoping that Isambard, who, by the way, having some issues here, might be able to close that gap. We've got a replay, though, of that big moment there between the Nash and the Velocity machine.
Yeah, we go back to take a look at it here. And Jackson, what do you see?
I think it was just one move a little bit too late there. You see Sangera try and jam it up the inside, and you already saw that Sodi machine. Gabe trying to cut back, didn't even see him go through, and gets ramped up. He had 2 cars broadside there coming out of turn 10. You're just really, really lucky that that didn't turn into a total gridlock like we saw at Vegas.
Yeah, exactly. We did see that once or twice at Vegas, where it just became a total logjam. Gap here continuing to maintain. It's down to about 9/10 of a second, excuse me, 11/10 of a second, up to 11/10 of a second between Isambard and Rodriguez. But right now, Isambard looks like he's losing ground to McQueen. McQueen, I've got to make an argument here. Got him in his groove.
That that engine is running hot. You already see Isambard ripped off pretty much all the duct tape on that radiator. McQueen running one more piece of tape still on top. So that, if it heats up any more for Isambard, he's going to start hemorrhaging power more and more. So however he's got that dialed in right now, there could potentially be some issues. A little bit of a check further back into the field. And it's one Nash down, but the other 2 are running phenomenal. Talking to Blake Nash this morning, he was talking about the confidence this entire Riverside-based team has had in running this engine, running this program, and himself, Edgar Rodriguez, and Evan Hager have been phenomenal so far this weekend. It was obviously a little bit of damage there, or a little bit of drama, should we say, for Levi Sangera, who, by the way, looks like he got himself running once again. I believe he's up into 15th, so able to clear Evan Hager a little bit further back. But all 3 of these Nash Motorsports machines in the top 10 before that carnage. And it's not just Blake. Across the board, these EOS machines going to be ones to look out for.
Yeah, they're going to be very, very quick, as proven by the fact that Rodriguez is pulling away here from Blake Nash. Nash, who has kind of carried the standard for that Nash Motorsport camp. I also want to give credit here, Davin Roberts holding in behind. He got kind of lost in the melee that we saw going down into turn 9. He's been able to recover and holding on to a very respectable 5. That gap for P3 now with Rodriguez and Nash starting to separate. It's about 5/10 of a second as it was when they crossed over the start-finish line. Everybody's starting to run a little distant from each other.
Yep, just behind those 2 Nashes, you also have a pseudo-Nash, if you will, because Davin Roberts, privateer on the entry list. He is running with Ryan Perry Motorsports. That's a 2-kart entry running out of the Nash tent this weekend alongside Tristan Murphy. So small but mighty 2-kart team there, because, I mean, you look at Tristan Murphy as well, not only was very, very dominant in round number 1, but could be very much someone to look out for here in round number 2. All these guys very used to running here as well. Pretty much every single major national series racing here, if not for a mainline event, a winter series event in 2025. So a lot of guys very used to running here. Caden McQueen, his first ever race here on American soil, he won. It's looking good for him right now, half a second clear of Isambard.
Yeah, he's starting to do that, but back in the battle for P4, starting to develop. Blake Nash losing a little bit of time here to the likes of Davin Roberts, that privateer entry that you mentioned not too long ago. Characteristic duck down in front for Edgar Rodriguez, just trying to minimize the draft off of turn 9. But this is the closest battle up in the top 5 right now as Roberts closing in on the back of Nash.
Went a little bit later on the brakes, and you could just see that kart essentially gliding over the apex there. Not a lot of grip hops from him right now. 30 seconds on the clock, then we'll bring out the 2 sticks. No reaction down low from Caden McQueen. He's still swinging it as wide as possible here through the switchback city, if you will, as we work our way into that long sweeping right-hander of turn number 7. In the single speeds, we've seen a lot of moves right here coming out of the junkyard corner. Is there going to be anything here? Not quite yet. So a 2-kart battle out in front. That 3-kart system just a little bit further back, continuing to go at it. But Edgar Rodriguez starting to pedal away from Nash and Roberts.
Yeah, he is starting to do so there a little bit, but we've got to keep our eyes focused on the lead here as they are going to come to the stripe right now. And this is going to be, I believe, those twin sticks being displayed. 2 laps to go, which means it's go time here. If you are Alan Isambard, he's going to be pushing ahead. Little bit of a slide there for Caden McQueen. Not enough to thoroughly slow him down, but I think he knows it's game on up at the front of the field.
Came into Rock Vegas looking to end the year off on a high note. A scary injury during Wednesday practice had him on the sidelines, and who else to step in but Indy Next pilot Alessandro DeTulia. Was meant to put the go-kart fully away at that point in the year, but with the heavy tie-ins with RRC, decided to jump in the cart just one more time and looked very strong in that weekend. Unfortunately, was up and down, but it has been a phenomenal return to form here for Isambard, your round 1 winner in SV Pro. And again, he continues to battle. Caden McQueen came into this series, not just round 1, but came into this series very much as the favorite. Pretty much won here in his first go at it in 2025. And despite, dropping back, I believe, P5 or 6, was looking very, very strong on Friday and on Saturday. And he's immediately picked up the ball and continued with that form.
Yeah, exactly. Really, really has. The gap growing 0.3 of a second. I think it's more as they cross over where they are right now going into turn 6. White flag has been displayed for these two drivers. As Caden McQueen comes out of the junkyard turn for the final time on this circuit of the track. A surreptitious glance behind him just to catch an idea of where Isambard is. I think if you're Isambard, recognizing this isn't your day, he's going to come back and have another bite at the apple here in a little bit. Right now, McQueen has a good line coming out of turn 12, down through the kink of 13. They're going to come across the stripe as they come through. One more lap to go. Excuse me, I don't know how to read, as that display up at the top there is wrong. One more lap for these drivers. Caden McQueen still has another lap to push ahead.
We'll see if he's able to potentially fend off. So frequently have we seen Alan Isambard close this gap later on in races. That's how we saw it in Wisconsin with USPKS and making those late race charges. And further back, Davin Roberts, you just saw it for a minute there, that RPM machine clearing Blake Nash for P4. Main opportunity right there, not able to get it. He'll have one more shot here coming into turn number 12.
He'll have one more shot. Let's see if he takes it. I don't think he's going to be close enough, as now Caden McQueen is going to come across the line. This will be the checkered flag. There it is displayed. He comes across to take victory. Isambard just not quite enough. And Davin Roberts, a 2-for-1 going into the last run there. Not scored, strangely. Something happened there. It looked like we lost a lot of runners. Sebastian Venegas listed as up into that 3rd position. I'm not sure that's right. Let's see if we can maybe get an update and figure out what happened there.
We'll try and see. I don't think that would be a knee-jerk reaction there. We are able to, through alpha timing, give live penalties, but I didn't see anything potentially pushed in. There you go. Davin Roberts, I believe, just not able to get Edgar Rodriguez at the line, but very, very close. 3/10 the difference. And of course, the minute I say that, actually, man, there it is.
There, we got it updated. All right.
So Davin Roberts, P3.
I thought he crossed the line in P3, but there it is. All right, folks, that has been heat number 2. Here next up is going to be ROK GP Junior. That'll be coming at you here in just a few moments' time. ROK GP Junior makes their way out onto the track with Jordan Murphy, Tristan Murphy, Nico Katowski, and Nico Orbezo. We've got Jordan Martin. He's having a little bit of a problem there. Jordan Martin, Tristan Murphy, Nico Katowski, and Nico Orbezo. Your top 4 here, Jackson.
Jordan Martin, someone we didn't see in round number 1. That's because they were testing GB4 in Silverstone, which I feel like is a pretty dang good excuse to not go to a kart race, but immediately has come back swinging out the gate, and will start alongside RPM, trying to continue that momentum from SV Pro. And immediately your brain goes to Nico Katowski and the absolute domination he had in round number 1 in this very class. Nico Orbezo, unfortunately the victim of that domination. But you look a little bit further back, Josh Bergman, pretty much the deepest down in the field we've seen him. What can he do alongside the Canadian Asher Pavan? He's sharing the field, or excuse me, sharing the tent with Achilles Saperko, who made some big moves. Let's see who can work their way up to the front here.
Normal bumping and shoving up at the front of the field as they line their way into that acceleration zone. There goes the green. We go racing here, and it's going to be a side-by-side battle between Murphy and Martin as they try to sort themselves out. I think Murphy's been able to get the hang of it. No, excuse me, it's Martin that was able to get the jump on him. He's going to be able to lead coming into turn 1, single file most through the field.
Immediately was able to clear him out of the hole shot. Look at Katowski! Immediate lunge there. That'll open the door up for Orbezo, but big time ambition there from the lone Burrell Art in the field to try and work his way through. That came back to bite him almost immediately. And you can see that gap build now. Jordan Martin, very, very clear now of the remainder of this field.
A little bit of side-by-side farther back in the field. One of the storylines we're going to be following is Josh Bergman, who is really one of the superstars of that first round, making a big move into this very corner on the last lap of the race. We're going to keep an eye on him. He didn't have the best qualifying, started all the way down in 6th. They come across the line right now, and this is going to sort everything out. It's Martin, Katowski, Murphy, Pavan, and Bergman already up to 5th.
Curious as well as what happened to Nico Orbezo, because he got himself right in the mix, but I think got knocked off the line, at least in the sweeper in that middle sector, and is now dropped back behind Achilles Saperko. So not entirely sure what's happened there for that Iron Rock Motorsports driver, but he is immediately trying to put the pressure back on the remainder of this field. The aggression has seemingly not died down, because that was a late lunge further back. I believe Tristan Murphy trying to get ahead of Nico Katowski and is able to fully clear him for P2. Thought of a swerve to the inside there from the 292, but decides to save that battle for another moment. And as of right now, the main battle, Katowski all the way back to Josh Bergman.
Yeah, we're going to see where this plays. It looks like it may be advantage here for Asher Pavan as they're going to try to see what they can do. No, look there, going down into turn number 1. Roll the speed, now down through 3, kicking it out to the outside, and now momentum is shifted back here to Katowski. He now loses a little bit farther back in the field. That looks like Orbezo is able to get by Saperko, so he's starting to move his way up forward.
Watch that Burrell Art next time coming into turn number 4. That was that wider line I was talking about earlier on, just dropping that outer rear tire over the white line. It's not a track limit violation, but it's that, for lack of a better term, the esports approach, right? Maximizing that line, taking it as wide as possible on entry. You still see it there even into turn number 10, just a slightly later turn in, trying to use all of that late momentum as a launch pad to try and get a run here. Not able to use it though quite yet on Tristan Murphy. But talking to Nico this morning, not the pace he's wanted, but the confidence still at an all-time high. He's using it right here into turn number 1 and makes quick work of Tristan Murphy.
Yeah, that was good heads up there from Katowski, just able to get to the inside and make it play. Vaughn trying to be able to get something to go. Orbezo back up to 5th here as Bergman's going to slot in behind Tim. That's a little bit of the breakaway back to Saperko and Salazar. Now it looks like there's a big head of steam for Pavan. Coming down in there, you can see some of the spotters and everybody pointing ahead, trying to be able to get their advice to their drivers. Of course, no radio traffic here in karting. This is all just down to man and machine.
In a lot of that conversation, you'll see some guys bust out rolls of duct tape, point to that to try and communicate, well, your engine's running a little cool, or excuse me, running a little hot, rip that tape off. And that is exactly what Katowski's just done, or excuse me, what Murphy just did. So again, a lot of guys starting to deal with engine issues. Again, hotter than any time we've seen guys on track at OKC so far this year. What a drive to the front from Nico Orbezo has already put Bergman and Pavan to the side, immediately dives on Tristan Murphy, and a hard charge from Nico Orbezo finds his way back up onto the podium.
And I want to give credit there to Orbezo. I was actually going to criticize him a little bit coming down into turn 1 and 2 as he wasn't as clear and decisive as we saw Katowski be on that previous lap. A little bit of contact coming down into the junkyard turn, and that's going to set up a big street fight coming down into 9.
Murphy hemorrhaging speed big time there, was doing everything he could to try and cover. That'll allow Pavon and Bergman to mosey on through. Now Bergman second in this group, so I believe P5. But you've got Bergman, Spierco, Valentina Santillano, so many now who weren't really in the fight initially because of that defense we saw from Murphy. They're in the picture.
Yeah, they're in it now, and we have talked about that before, that problem of battling it out just a little bit too much coming to play. Here they go. Now they're going to drive down into the corner, looking their way on through into 5. I thought for a second we were going to see some slides and some power moves, but it quite didn't play. Now we've got a move coming down into turn 6. Again, normally one line through there. Everybody sorts into line.
I think Murphy has some issues with the engine. Again, he's already wide open on the radiator, so I think that motor just running a little bit hotter than initially expected. Big wiggle there. Valentino Santillano locks up the brakes there to be able to make that move happen on Tristan Murphy. And the RPM kid continues to drop through the field, but one of the lone Hotes development drivers in this class continues the fight forward. Really good moves here further up, and it continues. One of the Norberg Academy kids, believe Brandon Shore, the Jamaican, just able to put him aside there. And it has been an absolute doghouse. The U-Race machine.
Oh!
Achilles Spierco goes through and makes big contact there. Shore goes immediately back but makes contact. That's the 233 Alex Savage into Achilles Spierco.
And that was just a misbraking zone is what it looked like there for me. Just not the way you wanted to do that. And that's really going to separate out that big battle as you imagine it would. There you can see everybody screaming down the back straightaway right now as they sort themselves out. We're going to take a look back into the lead here as this is Jordan Martin still leading over Nico Katowski.
Brilliantly boring race. She'd tell you that's the way she likes it right now because she's probably seen a little bit of the carnage behind. But Nico Katowski, this is the exact position we saw him a handful of times in round number 1. This Burrell Art machine coming alive later on in the race. And again, this is the not fun part of doing this, right? Closing that gap to getting to a point where you're able to strike. But the minute you're within, the minute that delta, that gap between drivers goes from about half a second to maybe a quarter of a second, that fear, that anxiety immediately pivots over to confidence. You know the draft is doing its job. You just need to find the right opportunity to strike. And Nico Katowski slowly but surely is trying to get himself in just that position.
Yeah, he's working his way up forward here, but Jordan Martin calm, cool, and collected. Probably 4 to go at the line if math serves me right, which it never does. But they're going to come across the line right now. We're going to jump back and take a look at the replay here of what happened down into the corner. Jackson, what do you see?
Late lunge there from the 233, Alex Savage, but he fully cleans out, I believe, Brandon Shore there, and unfortunately there for the 202. I mean, that is just absolutely nowhere to go. Or excuse me, the 208. Yeah, just really bad luck there for Spierco. Just nowhere he could have taken that MPG.
Yeah, and that is just one place, one time. I mean, there is nothing there Achilles could have done, I think. And Alexander Savage there obviously kind of missing that corner, a little bit of a late break, a late maneuver, and it didn't necessarily play out. Meanwhile, back up the front of the field, Jordan Martin continues to lead in that purple and black, or purple and yellow, excuse me, Rocket Racing machine. Katowski trying to close on in. Let's see what the gap is when they cross over the stripe here. This will be 3 laps to go at the line. She's got this under control. It's staying at 0.65 seconds.
And RRC surprised us with their pace in round number 1, especially for, despite a team that's based out here in Central Florida, has not run a lot of test sessions here. Pretty much did maybe a weekend and 2 or 3 days with a couple of their guys, partial squad tests in the middle of December, but that was pretty much it. And Jordan Martin was definitely not a part of that either. But this RRC camp has come alive to start out 2026. but so too has not just Nico Katowski, but his brother Jack as well, has been fighting for the podiums pretty much already anywhere in America, whether it was here, whether it was at Houston in Speed Sports. It has been a phenomenal start to their 2026 campaign for the Katowskis, but the unstoppable force in ROK Florida Winter Tour has finally met the unmovable object. And in just 2 laps, Nico Katowski's got to try and find a way around this 228 of Jordan Martin.
Yeah, he's been able to cut a 10th out, as you said a little bit earlier, but I just don't see the outright speed unless Jordan makes a mistake here or we just see this kart from Katowski come alive. I think this is going to be a little bit of go back to the drawing board, not necessarily throw out everything, but just tweak and tune that kart a little bit better, see if you're able to close in better late race for Katowski. Obviously started the race incredibly well, got it off to a fantastic form, but then fell back in the order, and Jordan Martin just able to take advantage. The other thing that's impressing me, Martin, is just how aggressive he is through turns 10 and 11. I mean, clobbering those curves.
Sacrificing spine and steel there to try and get that extra 1/10 of a second, right? And we saw that as well with Nico Katowski. A lot of the junior guys just monster trucking it over the curbs just to try and get that extra little bit of insurance. You got to be careful because, again, I don't want to totally jinx anything or advise against what they're doing because it's clearly working for Jordan Martin. But if you're using that much curb throughout the course of a session, throughout the course of a day, that could mean a cracked chassis. If you're really, really courageous, that could be a cracked grid. But again, Jordan Martin using that right now to get to the front.
Yeah, using it and using it well. She's going to power her way ahead. That gap rolling back up to 0.6 of a second. Down through turn 12. Now through 13, they come onto the main straightaway, and that is victory in heat number 1 for Jordan Martin. Katowski's going to hold on. One of your picks of the weekend here, Jackson. Nico Urbezo holds on for that podium position.
Had his back against the wall there all the way back in P7, but was able to put some really big names aside quickly, and the alarms are really going right now for Josh Bergman. He's going to have to go back to his notes and look at his stablemates, Asher Pavon, Achilles Saperko, and try and see what that Red Bull Junior driver is potentially missing. But still some really good running further back. Clayton Stiles, Tristan Murphy, Brandon Shore with Achilles Saperko and Alex Savage out in 12th and 13th. Again, our 2 drivers involved in that big 3-kart pileup.
Yeah, exactly. All right, we're going to take another quick break from you. I will take a quick break away from you, which I'm sure will be good news to many of those listening around the world. Joined in the booth by the one and only Jason Ewers.
When it comes to innovation on the track, Odinthal Racing Products leads the pack. From the highly popular EasyGP camera mounts to our tough case to GoPro case, racers everywhere trust ORP for strength, reliability, and precision. We're proud to be the #1 engine mount manufacturer in the USA. And with our new Easy Bumper Retainer System, you won't get caught out with a failed bumper bolt again. Odinthal Racing Products. Lead or get left behind.
Welcome to the future of kart race preparation. Kartsim Pro North America. Featuring laser-scanned North American kart circuits and precision-tuned kart physics developed using real telemetry, dyno and tyre data, Kartsim Pro North America delivers the most advanced and realistic kart simulation experience available today. Whether you're training for race day, refining your lines, or shaving tenths off your personal best, Kartsim Pro gives you pro-level insight without leaving your home. Trusted by world champions, coaches, and karting enthusiasts alike, this is where virtual practice translates into real-world performance. Experience the thrill, the challenge, and the edge. Kartsim Pro North America. Use code ROK20 to get 20% off today.
Welcome back. Fresh voice here for you.
We welcome you back to Orlando Kart Center. It's Jackson Lambros and Jason Ewers with you as we make the jump over to the Cadets ROK Micro, out on track, ready to get things started once again. And we always talk about how phenomenal the racing is in these little small but powerful 60cc motors.
Yeah, it's always been, you know, it's the youngest but still the best racing that we see. It's more respectful for these guys, and I don't know, it's interesting. The smaller packages allow them to be a little bit more. I think they can put carts in a little bit tighter spots than you can in a full-size cart. I think we've talked to some kids that have moved up, but as we're getting the green flag here, let's see how we go. So who's on wave off? All right, so Jordan Martin. This is not the race.
Is not entirely sure what we'll see. But still to come, the cadet duo of Mini and Micro will move over to VLR with your Masters and Supermasters and get things done throughout the VLR, or excuse me, yeah, throughout the VLR. So on to the Masters and then our massive grid, nearly 50 juniors and seniors out on track. You're not.
All right. Well, we're trying to get this through as we're lining ourselves back up here. But yeah, I mean, we had some great racing on the first event that we had here about 3 weeks ago.
Yep.
So it's nice to come back out here. Like we mentioned earlier, always great to see these cadet kids out here running, or the micro kids on the cadet cart. So as they work their way through, what I was kind of saying is it's fun to talk to the kids who've graduated to the full-size adult carts, and they talk about how the room's not there anymore.
Right.
It's, you know, you don't really think about the size of the cart and how much of a difference that makes. But as they're working their way through up the ladder system of karting, you know, you have to get to that bigger cart. And when you get to that bigger cart, they're bringing some other obstacles on occasion. I guess size is one of them.
Couple of new names out on the front row, Alessio Tosti and the Easy Kart driver, the 22 of Leandro Ramirez. You look further back, Emmett Dalton and Braxton Shiflett, one of your top GFC drivers with Norberg Karting Academy. Trey Sanders, Trey Andretti, as they call him, one of your top Nash Motorsports driver. This is where we get into the guys we're familiar with in ROK Cup. Alexander Mendez, Enzo Botero, Enzo Ramos, rounding out your top 10. Sodi Kart leading us to the green. They have built a Death Star in senior. Let's see how the juniors do as we go racing in ROK Micro.
Looking through that patented turn one with the inside line always has the advantage. Once in a while we'll see an outlier there, but 99% of the time. That leads you into turn 4 here, which is probably one of our highest passing areas on this track as they go into 5 nice little areas.
Ooh, trouble, one cart off. Believe that might be the 21. Enzo Botero, big time contact further back. Another cart up and over. At least 5 carts collected there. That is a big time accident coming out of turn number 2. I believe it was one of the Orsolans that initially kind of stacked them up. You had another cart broadside, and it's one of the CRGs that fully flipped up and over and has brought the carnage out. We'll try and get you some tags here as soon as that happens. Or excuse me, as soon as we get more information. But it's looking like Leandro Ramirez still gonna be the one here leading them through. Actually, no, Alessio Tosti getting that spot back after the whole shot.
Yeah, they got going there. This is that the 23? They got the 33 right there. Another kid, cart must have got loaded up sitting there. He's out as well, but great. Love our turn marshals. Just pick the kid up, cut him over, put him in a safe position. So great job for our flaggers out there on the heads up and making sure they're in safe positions here.
We lift the yellow here and we continue racing the local yellow on track. Tosti still your leader over Leandro Ramirez. Emmett Dalton gaining a couple positions as well here in the whole shot. So the 36 of Tosti leading a pair of Velocity Sodis, and unfortunately that big time carnage at the start there coming out of turn number 4 has really split this field early on. You got Braxton Shiflett, who's kind of on an archipelago right now. Back to Max Santana, Romeo Ferrante, and Enzo Ramos. Trey Sanders, again, was looking so good, but unfortunately has hemorrhaged speed big time. Again, got caught up in a little bit of that carnage in the opening lap. Didn't get fully, believe that Nash Motorsports machine is okay, but continues to resume here further back P8. So a D2 leading a pair of Velocity Sodis, then the lone Norberg Braxton Shiflett out by his lonesome.
Yeah, I tell you what's surprising is the poor qualifying by Jack Katowski. You know, he was a Burrell art to reckon with in the first round, and now he's sitting back up one spot to 14th. But I'm sure that Trinity Karting group will work their magic on those as the weekend progresses and work his way up to the top. So, what's who you got? Who you like here?
I really want to. I'm a California kid. I don't want to be too partial to my Nash Motorsports guys, but Braxton Shiflett I'm liking as well. Really nice family. Talked to them briefly last weekend, but I really did like Trey Sanders. I thought he had some really good stuff in round one. Unfortunately, has been a little bit snake bit to get started so far this weekend. Jack Katowski was, again, going to be a knee-jerk one, but is back in P12. And I think a big part of that issue, Jason, is, yes, even if you did have pace in round one, thank goodness because of this, but it's 20 degrees hotter than it was in January. The track temp is different. The ambience is different. We've had guys running already in SV in the 125cc categories, tape fully off the radiator and still feeling like the engines are running too hot.
Yeah, and what you'll see is you'll start seeing them actually on the Kartsim radiators. We got a couple of issues here. 5. They'll start staining the radiator up.
Really?
And that'll allow more air to go into the radiator, help cool it down a little bit. So, but I mean, it's not like it's, you know, Vegas in the summer hot out here, right? Or typical Florida heat. It's still a little chilly, but yeah, like you said, it's a little different conditions than what we had to experience the first time around.
Action starting to develop here in the bottom step of the podium. You just saw that late lunge into turn number 10. Braxton Shiflett, who we just talked about, the Norberg Academy driver, dropping down. Here's another move. Max Santana up the inside of Emmett Dalton, not able to fully cross him up immediately. Dalton able to swing back in that Sodi kart and just barely hang on to P4, but Max Santana just behind that Team Bennett machine is right there with him.
Yeah, and Toasty up there front has just kind of got himself a nice little gap, maintaining that as the karts behind him are battling a little bit there, so that's just exactly what he wants to see. Allow him not to have to feel any pressure, put any mistakes out there on the track, kind of run your pace, maybe back it down just a little bit, save your equipment, save those tires for the later rounds that we have to do.
Ferrante actually clearing, I believe, Emmett Dalton, Max Santana, that Orsilon machine able to clear Dalton further back, so then it'll be Romeo Ferrante, Enzo Ramos, that lone Parolin out in front. Saw such good running from Parolin at Rock Vegas. Maxwell Macha, one of the guys who was really flying the flag there, but Parolin obviously trying to grow their program here stateside, the Italian builder, but really has shown their premise here in Florida, at least from the cadet side. And you see that as well with Bennett. Not just with guys like Dutch Westbrook, but as well Enzo Ramos. A lot of guys, you know, we're starting to see full size. Obviously, you have your specialties, OTK Bennett, but we're starting to see a lot of chassis builders kind of come alive in those junior categories. Immediately, though, you look at Parolin and Bennett as that, as we see another great move there. Enzo Dalton able to swing back on Ferrante.
Yeah, the difference there, though, is Bennett started with Cadet, and working their way up to full-size chassis, where as we get the white flag here, like I said, Toasty is pretty much in command the whole entire race. They're not been challenged at all, but good run there. I'm looking at Jack Katowski's gone up all the way up to 8th spot, so working his way through. Definitely maybe one of those guys that's a little bit better racer than qualifier. Me personally, I was that. Never a great qualifier, always a better racer. So, and we talked, there's many reasons why that's the reason, but maybe the thing is just out with the kart was good qualifying. Ramirez, Shiflett, Santana, Ferrante, Dalton, Ramos, Katowski, Sanders, and there's a top 10. I think about a half a lap left. Kind of, you know, we're used to them battling so much. You know, not a lot of battling.
weirdly quiet. You'll see Mauricio Hernandez and a couple of Masters flying the flag for D2 later on once we get back to the big kids. But this young one in the 36 has planted it firmly on Florida soil. Run to the checkered flag and the finger in the air. Alessio Tosti in the 36 knows that D2 machine has got something. Leandro Ramirez home in second. Great recovery drive as well. Braxton Shiplet, Max Santana, Romeo Ferrante, Jack Katowski, who we didn't even get to talking about with that TKG pilot, not only worked his way up to P6, got a purple lap on the way.
Absolutely, and that was the last lap he got purple too, so good run for TKG right there. I mean, but it was odd. I mean, that just the maturity of the younger kids understanding that this is a marathon and not a sprint, that, hey, save your equipment, let's just try to pick off clean passes, don't put myself in any situation that's going to cause any damage to my equipment. Get as much data that I can gather to go back to my engineer and give that information back and see what we can do to make this car better.
We talk about how pivotal that is in learning to race, not just in karting, but at the national level, right? This is the first realistic step. And again, we're seeing those skills develop before our very eyes. You'll learn Chapter 2. You'll see Chapter 2 here in just a moment. We'll step aside with ROK Mini coming up here from Orlando.
Well, if you race Kartsim Pro North America, featuring laser-scanned North American kart circuits and precision-tuned kart physics developed using real telemetry, dyno and tyre data, Kartsim Pro North America delivers the most advanced and realistic kart simulation experience available today. Whether you're training for race day, refining your lines, or shaving tenths off your personal best, Kartsim Pro gives you pro-level insight without leaving your home. Trusted by world champions, coaches, and karting enthusiasts alike, this is where virtual practice translates into real-world performance. Experience the thrill, the challenge, and the edge. Kartsim Pro North America, use code ROK20 to get 20% off today.
When it comes to innovation on the track, Odinthal Racing Products leads the pack. From the highly popular EasyGP camera mounts to our tough case to GoPro case, racers everywhere trust ORP for strength, reliability, and precision. We're proud to be the #1 engine mount manufacturer in the USA. And with our new Easy Bumper Retainer System, you won't get caught out with a failed bumper bolt again. Odinthal Racing Products. Lead or get left behind.
You're watching a Jason Larea creative ROK Cup USA production.
Track pickup still underway, just on the back half of it though, as we are getting prepped to go here in ROK Mini. Again, our first round of heats just about reaching the halfway point here in round number 2 of the ROK Cup USA Florida Winter Tour. Jackson Lambros, Jason Ewers with you here in the broadcast booth. DJ Clark back with you here in just a little bit. We've talked so much already about the importance of getting your weekend off on the right foot, but in round 1, so many drivers trying to get themselves on the right foot here, Jason. And you look at the vibe going into round 2, and it just feels like the vibe is still maximize that point output, get yourself in the hopes, in the chance to fight for a championship come Palmetto.
Yeah, that's interesting you say about the energy, because it's like, you know, everyone's back together for round 1, haven't seen each other for a while, so you get that energy. And now, you know, with some other racing going on, a lot of these people have been racing each other, you know. like the Katowskis. I don't think they've had really a weekend off since the last Florida Winter Tour that we had. So they've been running. And some of these other kids, maybe this is the first time they've been back in the cart in 3 weeks. So some interesting factors to play there. So I think everyone's just kind of getting settled back in. If you haven't been one of those carts to kind of run some other races going on, I'm sure there's been some testing going on down here. Academies down here, so I'm sure they've been cranking a lot of laps out, knowing what they kind of had and now what they can get with those carts. So it will be interesting to see, and I think he's got some more drivers this round racing, so that's going to be great.
I mean, if you really want to turn the clock back, I mean, we had guys racing New Year's weekend, CKNA out here in Jacksonville for the Winter Nationals, but you look at Nico Katowski as well. I mean, that did start for them with TKG out at Daytona for Daytona Kart Week. They immediately then went over to Scusa's Winter Series out at Speed Sports Racing Park, where we ended our Florida Winter Tour last year. Florida Winter Tour in Texas. Don't think about it too hard. But again, for a lot of these guys, it has already been all gas, no brakes to get this 2026 racing season started. And if you want at the regional, at the club, at the national level, you can truly go 40 weeks on the racetrack. Let's talk about the racetrack, though. Vicente Aguilar for AM Engines, the Argentinian, on pole position. Here's the Paralins we were talking about. Colton Brook over Dutch Westbrook with Lennox Lockhart and Islo Alonso taking the green flag as we go racing in Mini Heat 1.
Yeah, good start there for Aguilar. Just kind of got what he needed to do, kept that cart on the inside, rolling his way down the floor. Probably a little defensive here just to protect. Looks over that shoulder. No really challenges there. Little high there. Who was that? Was that Westbrook that got a little high going into 4, washed out? I mean, a little early for marbles to be rolling up, but never spread. Another issue in the 4.
2 Sodis in the 103. Bautista Pierre-Glesse as, oh my goodness, more carnage for the Sodis. But Aguilar continuing to set the tone early. All 3 carts able to pull away, though, from that little pileup. Here's a look to the inside. Dutch Westbrook. This is the pace we were expecting from round number 1 after being so snake bit in January for the first time. He finds his way to the front here at OKC.
Yeah, that was not the round that he was wanting. I mean, bad luck after bad luck after bad luck. And again, it all starts with that qualifying position, because this is you start where you qualify at every single heat. So, if you have a bad qualifier, when you're back in traffic, and Dutch is so used to being running in front that he probably puts that cart in positions where not being so patient, because he wants to get up as fast as he can, and then just gets kind of caught up. And, that one DNF in this is going to kill you. And you saw what happened to him in round 1.
Absolutely. And again, you need that consistency in the heats. You look at where Caden McQueen is. Even though he finished, I believe, 4th or 5th on finals day, I don't think he had a foot off the podium the entire week leading up to that. Certainly not a DNF, but that's the level of consistency that you need to win a championship outside of Sunday. So execution here. Yes, it isn't the win that's going to get you a trophy, but equally as important. Looked like Aiden Go realizes that. He's jamming it up the inside of his teammate, Nico Salazar. I think he was just able to clear him. No, they're still drag racing a little bit further back with a new teammate. That's Lennox Lockhart in the 198, I believe. Or, excuse me, no, the 114.
Aiden Go is the 198. The 114 is Lockhart.
Thank you. So making that move over, though, from Velocity Racing and Sodi, jumping into a Paralin for the first time, his first weekend back in a go-kart in 2026, and has come out of the gate swinging.
Yeah, it's a little dicier than what we saw the little brothers earlier.
Oh,
so
for sure.
They kind of just all kind of went nose to tail, like you like to call it, snaking their way around the track. But this group right here, a little more dicey, a little more racy.
Look from Lennox. Oh, side potting around one of the Tony carts. I believe that was the Orsolon Nico Salazar. I think might have just board slid it there on the outside of the curbing.
Elbows up on that one.
No, for sure.
I think he just got a little loose coming out of there, because that's where that transition to that track is. You could easily get caught on that transition. With these small rims and tires, you're riding the pavement. You're not going to be able to get out of that pretty easy. So, as we're working into 4 here, though, it's still Westbrook, Aguilar, Lockhart, Bruck, Go, Lorenzo, Chiaveri, Hidalgo, Bullpit, Alonso for your top 10.
You saw the tap of the helmet there just briefly from that red helmet of Lennox Lockhart, trying to tell the guys behind him to use their heads. The last thing they want is an incident that caught him out like that OTK very wide there. Aguilar coming out of Junkyard needs to be careful if that's all 4 tires over. Yes, the runoff is there, but that is going to be a track cut penalty if you're using that just a little bit too much. We'll have to wait and see. So that battle continuing, but the 3 Paralins continue to go at it further back. Colton Bruck, Aiden Go, and Cooper Lorenzo Lopez. Then it's the PSL of Samuel Chaveri. That whole system starting to develop just a little bit more. Well, let's take a look back at what happened there. That lone OTK, Berencio Leal.
Now we're going to see if that's not what we, right here.
So throws the side pod in, and oh yeah.
Yeah, just did not give him enough room. Spun him around.
Would you say that's on the Paralin overtaking there?
I'll leave that up to the race director.
Honestly, correct answer.
Yes. Yeah, I wanted to go back and see if he actually got all 4 wheels off the track there when Aguilera was coming around off the turn.
I think the...
it's ready, I believe.
See if we can take one more look there, potentially. As again, watch that Paralin going down low on the inside of that Orsilon OTK. And there might have been a little bit of throttle input on that receiving driver that made that a tad more dramatic.
I think he just, he dropped the tire off, but obviously did not give him the room that he was needing. But it's racing incident, maybe. We'll see at the end of this what our race director decides to do on that. But as we're going with under 2 plus the 2 laps to go, your leader, Westbrook, still up top. Also purple, 59.87 for him. About a 10th faster than the second place of Aguilera. And then you also have Bruck sitting back there, 59.99. The only other driver is Chaveri sitting back there in 6th that are all in the 59-second range.
So Salazar able to get going again. He was the one we saw do that 180 after contact with the Paralin. His teammate Benicio Leal cannot say the same. Out of the race entirely. Same for Isco Alonso, who was very much a big player, that AM Engines machine, in round number 1, and was hemorrhaging speed early from the start. I'm not sure if there was a potential issue with the motor, if there was an incident on track that we might have missed. But someone who was a key factor in the weekend in Mini for round number 1 is not a factor. That has essentially been replaced for Dutch Westbrook by Vicente Aguilar.
Yeah, he went a 1 nat, picked up another nat, I guess.
Yep.
Another bothersome person there. But no, that's what we want racing to see. You know, I think it's only going to make Westbrook better if he can have someone to race against. And you know, we never really got to see what he had from round 1 because he was in trouble all the time just because of where he was qualifying at because of his issues. But yeah, as we're going through here, it looks like Aguilar has some pace for Westbrook. What's interesting though is, you know, you got Westbrook who's on a chassis team.
Right.
And then you have Aguilera who's on an engine racing team. So
Exactly.
It's kind of interesting how those two dynamics are completely different, but obviously each way works well.
And again, you've got a handful of different... Benik absolutely has their own engine builders up their sleeves. They're not alone in that. But two very different approaches to running a racing program in go-karting. Here's the move we've been waiting for. Vicente Aguilar on the inside. Westbrook trying to cross him up, not able to get there. And your pole sitter, the Argentinian Vicente Aguilar, just barely able to get back to the point with 2 laps to go.
Yeah, surprise. Oh, inside for Westbrook through that. We never see
Never. Nuclear move. Aguilar immediately trying to swing back though into Junkyard corner, too wide. Aguilar up into the grass almost, and Dutch Westbrook, a nuclear move into the carousel, gets his way back to the point.
I don't think Aguilar even thought about that was even going to be a possibility. No. Left the door open, and Westbrook just took it. Good move for Dutch right there. Now let's see if Aguilar can do anything to kind of work his way back up, because Dutch looked like he's got himself about a 3 to 4 cart length as they trot the stripes there with 1 to go. Correct?
Believe so. So the boulder
white flag is flying.
Boulder back to the bottom of the hill for Vicente Aguilar. A pass that was nearly 10 minutes in the making will immediately be mimicked in the exact same corner. Westbrook, a way better launch, and Westbrook ramps Aguilar off there a little bit. You saw the two front wheels actually go skyward. A little bit of contact there, but still Aguilar able to keep going. Are we going to see this move stick into the junkyard corner? Aguilar looking down low, big time momentum, able to cover. They'll drag race coming out of the junkyard corner. They nearly lock side pods. This is a phenomenal battle. Brock and Lockhart, the two Paralins, right there in the mix as well. What a battle this has been. A duel that has come to life at the tail end of this race and brought the two Paralins in. Lockhart trying a late lunch. Another return from Colton Brook there to try and get to P3. Here's the drag race for Heat 1 for ROK Mini. Just barely. Vicente Aguilar able to run back and take it in Heat number 1.
Wow, 0.05 of a second difference. The top three were all within a half a second of each other. Top five were all within a half a second there. That little, who's that, the 107?
187, Luke Bullpen. Unfortunately, having that motor die on him just at the tail end there. But what a battle between Vicente Aguilar and Dutch Westbrook. 20-something positions moving forward in ROK Vegas, and unfortunately not able to defend against AM Engine's Vicente Aguilar. We move back up to the full size with VLR coming up here from Orlando. And we gain an extra 40cc. We bring in the VLRs as we return to you for round number 2 of the Florida Winter Tours. Chase Hand getting things started in the 927. with Mauricio Hernandez, Santiago Fernandez, and Colin Lloyd just behind. How cool is it to see Chase Hand back behind the wheel of a go-kart? The constant man at the wrenches for GFC. Literally saw him last weekend for Champions of the Future, crewing for Formula Works, immediately finding him back on, not just back behind the wheel of a go-kart, back on pole position, Jason.
Yeah, absolutely. So it's going to be fun. Like Chase Hand, that's a name right there. He's been in karting for a long time. I know this is just, not the old guy group.
Right.
But I think Chase could run Masters.
No.
Really?
No.
How old is Chase?
I think he's my age, like early 20s. Dad Joey.
Joey Hand. I'm thinking his dad. Yeah, never mind. You're right. Absolutely. Because I was like, wait a minute. The Hand name's been around.
Believe also the mistake I made at Rock Vegas.
So, fair enough.
But Chase Hand on pole. Dad Joey, long tenure driver for Ford Racing. Actually a stage winner at NASCAR on the streets of Chicago. Favorite obscure NASCAR fact there. But Mauricio Hernandez, a big-time favorite when we rolled into Houston in 24. Will be right alongside him for D2 Motors in their home team. And the big story coming out of round number 1 as well. Colin Lloyd for Velocity Racing by Sodi, able to snap that seemingly endless losing streak and find himself back in victory lane. But still some big names. Sebastian Garzon for Orsilon a little bit further back than he would want. You got some of the older, longer tenured guys. Charles Ropke, Alexander Dalbon, Jake Rendeze, Alex Takoff. A lot of big names here. And the question, who will come out on top? The answers begin right now as we go racing in VLR Senior.
Yeah, always one of the funner classes to watch here. Definitely more aggressive, a lot more blocking. We see more of pack racing here, than you do normally. So a ton of passing. Fun
like that, 4 wide at turn 4. Oh,
fun for you at home to watch. So, if you're watching thinking it's boring because there's a 2 or 3 kart breakaway, just stay for about 3 or 4 laps because that backpack will end up picking up and catching it. So
in between the spectrum of 4-stroke racing and the absolute insanity that is 125cc is this right here in the spectrum, the 100cc motors made by Vortec. That is the ROK VLR engine. It's created some phenomenal racing for us no matter where we've gone, and immediately the product has not been any different. Yeah, big stack up there in turn number 9, I believe. Big time stack up there. But a great start for Mauricio Hernandez, actually able to make the outside work around Chase Hand, finds his way to the point, and Colin Lloyd immediately pulls a seat up at the table. He'll take a little bit of a peek to the outside, now down low, as Chase Hand begins the study session. Tries to see where he can potentially make a move work around the 917.
Yeah, he charged 4 a lot harder than what Hernandez did. So I don't know if he's just trying to gauge his braking there. If Hernandez keeps that door open, he knows he's going to be able to brake a little bit, keep that cart under control, get it rotated back on the throttle so he doesn't get kicked off on the over-under. But, good to see that Norberg, like we talked about. Norberg's probably been sitting here cranking out laps since round 1, since this is their home track. So pretty much got those Norberg chassis, those GFS chassis dialed in. And it's, again, good to see these guys running American company,
right.
Manufactured over in Italy. But, it's Gary Carlton's design. It's his blood and artwork, just everything that he's been able to do. And then, Ryan obviously saw that. Basically, East Coast version of Gary GFC over on the West Coast.
Right.
Good to see them as they're obviously making some great strides. And Joey looks really fast here, kind of buying his time, maybe letting his tire pressures kind of come up. He's all over the back bumper of Hernandez there. So we'll see what happens here as we go. Yep, got around him right there.
Yep, trouble as well for one of the Host development drivers. Not entirely sure who that was. Stellar move, though, from Chase Hand to get himself to the point. Not entirely sure what his running record is here at OKC. But obviously, as you mentioned, Jason, Norberg Karting Academy able to get these Italian-made, American-branded chassis really dialed in here in Central Florida. Very quickly starting to become a 4-kart freight train here with Santiago Fernandez, another new team we haven't necessarily covered. Kalkev, new for round number 2, but another one based here. Big set to the inside. Colin Lloyd from the top rope gets that move on Hernandez. Not able to fully clear him just yet. And Mauricio Hernandez able to battle back, but you see how big that gap has developed now. Chase Hand out into the open blue.
Yeah, he's the one that got to take advantage of that, just keeping out front. So smart move for him to make that move when he made it. You could see it happening. He just seemed a lot faster. Seemed like he had to get on the brakes a little earlier than he wanted to stop from getting in the back of Hernandez. And once he got out in front, you can see what he's been able to do. So as these cars work their way through nose to tail, if they do not sit there and battle too hard, we'll see if they can actually end up catching Hand and see what we have with approaching 5 plus the 2. But noticed right here, who's Techno Kart, Ramalade right there, sitting in. Good for them. That's one of our, we'll see. Martin's cart. He'll be coming up next in the senior version. Now he's the Techno importer. So out of Chicago, Illinois. So they made the trip down this time with their own equipment.
Yes.
The last time he was here, round 1, he came down and decided to race at the last minute and had a cart down.
So big-time issues as well here, Jason. Mauricio Hernandez, again, got moved aside by Colin Lloyd pretty much exactly a lap ago, and he has not been able to get back in line. He's dropped all the way back to P7. We just saw the 2 Orsilon machines, the 2 OTKs. That's Bernal Valverde and Sebastian Garzon. Garzon on the podium in round number 1, battling with one of his new teammates coming in this weekend. Tyrone Kemper Jr., also another new name for Orsilon Racing, but we're running a junior, so we'll be seeing him in about 30 minutes or so. But this immediately brings a lot of the smaller teams who we have not really seen so far in this series. Mauricio Hernandez, obviously, for D2, Joseph Guerrero for SLA, and then you go back to a guy who razzle-dazzled us, Tizanio Rosso, in that GFC Academy for Ryan Norberg. Just trying to find his way to move a little bit further forward. That's Bernal Valverde at the head of that freight train. And just a little bit further back, we are nearly 3 wide. Look at this, Mauricio Hernandez trying to go on the inside of that D2 machine and clear Mauricio, and he's done it. Big time momentum there, and chucks it to the inside, made it 3 wide. But Mauricio Hernandez losing it to a hard-charging Joaquin Galero.
Yeah, I was kind of sitting there watching Hernandez's car, because as he got kind of pushed back, I think he's the one that got off on Junkyard Turn, and looked like he hit pretty hard. So I was kind of wondering if maybe he bent an axle. That's why he was kind of dropping back a little bit. But that move he made there, obviously no bent axle, but we'll see where we're at as we're working our way through with 3 to go. Kind of just was looking at the gap that he had with Rosso behind him, but Rosso is significantly a little bit faster. Right now, though, Lloyd just went purple with a 55.74. Himself and Fernandez are the only 2 in the 55s.
Watch that gap to the right of Santiago Fernandez, just a tick under a second last time by, but there is still more than enough time for these two to try and close that gap to your race leader. Chase Hand made a monster move around the outside of Junkyard Corner to take the lead of this race, and has since not looked back. But Santiago Fernandez and Colin Lloyd are gaining 2/10 put away there, and now 7/10 the difference. Colin Lloyd knows that he's not battling Santiago at all. These two want to try and close that gap as much as possible.
Yeah, it's going to be an interesting race. Like you said, good new team out there.
Right.
Good to see something, people are expanding on their own, wanting to build their own team. Maybe, some of these teams are really big. You have 40, 50 carts under the tent. And some people get a little intimidated by that and want to maybe go to a little bit smaller team, get a little bit more personal one-on-one. And that's how we usually see some of these teams kind of spawn off of other teams. So we'll see what happens here. But Fernandez is doing very well for that fresh team out here for the ROK Cup round 2. But does anybody have anything for Hand? We will soon find out.
These two need to coexist together if they want any ambition of doing so, and that gap continues to shorten. 0.77 last time by, but with just a tick under 90 seconds on the clock, it's 0.64 between Hand and Fernandez. This could be a huge win for Kalkev, but are they able to close that gap? Is Colin Lloyd going to continue to bide his time and help this newcomer to ROK Cup, or is he going to run out of patience and work his way into that runner-up spot? We know how important that output of points can be at this stage in the weekend. If you've got that opportunity where you're running out in front you don't know when the bad luck could potentially strike you again, whether it's engine issues, getting caught in incidents with other people. Do we want to seek, does Colin Lloyd want to maximize those opportunities?
Yeah, we'll find out. I mean, patience is key.
Oh,
you
yeah.
know, you don't want to put that cart in a position where you're going to have a chance to take yourself out, and also when your fellow racers there, so you both get a DNF. That's always fun in the scale line. You've seen that
Yes.
enough.
Yes.
But looks like they closed in on Hand a little bit there that last lap. So we'll see what happens. Looks like there'll be 2 to go.
0.46 the gap now.
Yeah, when they cross the stripes here, should be 2 to go. Definitely the gap has closed in, but Lloyd is the fastest kart on that track. Like you said, is he going to help work that Cal Cub chassis? He's wanting them. He's pushing the back of his helmet, so they're definitely working with each other here. Definitely close that gap as they're going into 9. You can see that.
Yep.
Down to about a kart and a half, 2 kart lengths as they're going into 10.
Been consistently about 0.2 a lap here. The gap that has gone away. Twin Sticks coming out this time by. And the Jaws music begins to play for the Bay Area kid. Chase Hand out in front. Big shuffles further back. Sebastian Garzon continues to battle with Bernal Valverde, the 2 Orsolans. Valverde on top now will be in P4, but we are laser focused on this battle from P1 on back. Now we're starting to see that gap plateau. Pace went back the way of Chase Hand, personal best lap last time around, but Fernandez and Lloyd are still just barely within striking distance. Lloyd not within distance to try and give him a push. And with the white flag coming out this time by these 3 karts, Jason, are equidistant to one another.
Yeah, it's great to see, Hand completely responded to the push that he had from behind. Notice that they were closing that gap, put the throttle down a little harder, be able to put that gap kind of back out to where it was, but with 1 to go, where we at, it stayed exactly the same as it did the last lap. So that's exactly what he wants to see. And they're just out of that late braking into that 4 passing zone. So good job for Hand recognizing that, keeping that necessary gap that he needs to have. But with that said, that gap right there is way below 0.4 of a second now. It's probably less than a tenth. Good run through there for Fernandez as he's going to go through here. A little
contact
brake check right there. Kart get a little loose.
Hand goes very wide, big time defense now. Fernandez has his gap. Lloyd is going to be able to push him through. Big time contact into turn number 10. Lloyd on the inside gets a twofer into turn number 9. Hand trying to cross him up and will somehow manage to find his way back to the lead. But Colin Lloyd up into P2. He wants it all. Fernandez going to go on through. The major move at the buzzer. Santiago Fernandez, welcome to ROK Cup. Heat number 1 belongs to Kalkev in the 954.
Wow, what a finish right there. We didn't see any passing last year going into, what is that, 10? 10, 11, 12. We've seen more passing there in the last couple weeks than we've seen ever there, so it's great. People have proven that you can do it. That hats off to the tire that they're running, the Levanto tire, allowing them to put the kart in there and allowing it to stick and having the faith of being able to do that. So drivers are loving them. Rubber's starting to get laid down on this track, as you can see out there. But yeah, good race. That was a lot of fun.
A lot of positive messages coming into this weekend in between round 1 and round 2. The repave of the track, the added track limits have made this place a masterpiece for wheel-to-wheel battles. And Santiago Fernandez, because of that, has made the message clear to the remainder of this VLR field. I am here and I am ready to fight for wins. We'll step aside for just a moment. Actually, we'll take a quick look here on that phenomenal last set of sequences and how Santiago Fernandez went from 3rd to 1st in just a handful of laps, Jason.
Yeah, it was great. As you can see, their Hand had nowhere to go here, just kind of sitting to see what was going to happen, but he very smart, kind of backed the kart up, backed the corner up, saw it, was able to get underneath both of them, but I never in my time would have thought that the next pass was going to happen up here by Hand or by Fernandez.
Big lockup there. Colin Lloyd saw the window and was able to mosey on through. And Fernandez, first-time winner at the national level. Step aside here and work our way up to the crazy old men, Masters and Supermasters, coming up here from OKC.
Welcome back to the Orlando Kart Center. DJ Clark back in the booth, joined as always by Jason Ewers as we get ready for heat number 1 of the Masters and Super Masters category for your VLR class. Always a good time to see these boys out on track, Jason. This is always an exciting class. Sometimes we see discretion being the better part of valor, and sometimes these guys just throw it to the wind. You never know what you're going to get.
Yeah, you never do. And, dear to my heart is this class, because this is my class. Raced against many of these guys before. But, yeah, it's going to be great to see here. Going to be interesting to see what's going to happen to Mardan with bringing his own equipment down. So that's going to be fun to see. Elefante showed some great pace from round 1, and Romalo, of course, was up there. Falcone struggled a little bit, had some issues, got into some incidences there, so we'll see what all happens through here. But status quo, looking at the qualifying runs, not shocked. That's kind of where we saw them running from round 1. So no big surprises there. Let's see if some people can make some adjustments to those carts from that qualifying run and work your way up.
Yeah, I think it's going to be interesting to see. I particularly have eyes on Scott Falcone qualifying in 6th place position for these heats, and I'm going to be interested to see what his race pace is like. If we think back to a couple of weeks ago when we were here, he had great qualifying pace, was able to get himself up into the mix, and then just kind of fell off a little bit during the race. You kind of mentioned some of that bad luck that he had befall him as well.
Yeah, he had a read break on the first heat, and then just had bad luck. One of those. You just want to put the cart back in the trailer and go another day type of a deal. But, what's interesting, though, I'm looking at, Del Bon was fast for round 1. He's in the back right here. So, again, this is one of those classes that we have that is, 2 different classes racing against, all in one together. So, we kind of mixed together. So, we have the Masters and Super Masters.
All right, well, it's Romalo and Mardan up on pole position, and here they go. Race underway. Big scatter in the back of the field. It does look like that Romalo is going to be able to hold on to the lead. Mardan losing a couple of positions. We're clean through 1 and 2. Mardan losing, I think, 2, maybe 3 spots as I look at the screen. Single file down into turn number 4 for the first running. They're going to be able to keep themselves together and keep themselves clean. Romalo setting the early pace here at the Orlando Kart Center.
Yeah, absolutely. And if you're curious, the double digits are the Super Masters. The triple digits with the 7s are the Masters. So if you're kind of curious out there and you're looking, now you know what the differentiation is there. So as you look there, Romalo's working those jets a little bit on that engine just to try to peak it out a little bit more going that straightaway, see if he can get a little more RPM out of it as we're rolling through.
Oh, cart off in the background. That looks like the number 20.
Barrios.
Yeah, that is
Mario Barrios, 26.
And he had qualified all the way up into 5th place. That was a good run for him in the beginning. Obviously, it's going to be a lot worse here. We take a look back. Mardan had indeed lost 2 positions all the way down to 4th place. South Dida able to take up that position as well as Paul Elefante, who finds himself in 2nd. Battle for P2 right now. Elefante, Dida, and Mardan.
Yeah, look at Del Bon, who we're talking about, number 29, is all the way up to 6th position right now. So he is leading his own class right there. So something happened to Falcone. Bad start for him. He's down to 10th overall, 3rd in class. So we'll see if Scott can get settled in and start picking off some drivers to get back up there. But great start for Del Bon. I believe he's really following what he did in round 1. And just bad qualifying, I guess. Sometimes it's just... You take a stab at something and you just miss. So Elefante here's got his hands full with Mardan all over the back of him. Little slideways there, as you like to say, DJ, as we come across the stripes, see what he can do.
And it looks like Mardan has been able to pick off Salt Dida. That's allowed.
Oh, Dida, a little break on the binders and got the cart around. Kept it running, though. Get back in the line right there and see what happens. You just got to do it all over again.
And remember, these heats are cumulative, so Dida will be able to start back up towards the front of the field tomorrow. He will lose out on valuable points going into the pre-final tomorrow, but he won't have everything left to play for. Now it's a 2-cart fight up here with Elefante and Mardan. Ale Javier trying to close on in a little bit more, but Danilo Romalo often into his own area code.
He is definitely, significantly faster, almost a second faster than everybody else on the track right now. That's going to make it difficult for guys to catch him. So
Yeah, it looks like here we've got a replay to go back to. This is going to be that issue back into turn number 1 with Sal Dittle. Let's take another look.
Just got in hot. Yep. And he got in the back of Mardan just a little bit, could not lock the brakes up, couldn't get the cart slowed down enough. Kept it running, though, and just kind of get back in, lick your wounds, and start cranking through. So Alfonte's sitting right there. I mean, he's got to play a little defense, but that's what allowing Romalo to kind of just check out on them. But Romalo's just, every lap he's laying down is purple. So a little bit faster for the back two behind him, but I think Elefante's probably holding Mardan up a little bit here, and it's probably just a matter of time before Mardan makes a move, runs out of patience, as he's seeing Romalo just kind of check out every single lap.
He's giving him a little bit of that bumper shove there, and that's where that discretion proves the better part of valor. I think that's definitely Mardan saying, all right, hurry it up. Let's see if we can work together, maybe try to close that gap as a twosome. And if that doesn't work, he will make that move and just scamper off into his own distance.
Yeah, absolutely. It'd be interesting. And it's great to hear. Last time I talked to Paul, round 1, he's still kind of working off of, beating cancer. I mean, love to hear that. So talked about he was just out of shape. He needed to get a little bit more into shape about it. So 3 weeks to get himself a little bit more prepared. I mean, he said he was out of shape, but the man looked ripped to me. So
something tells me that Paul's out of shape and my out of shape have wildly different definitions underneath them. But he's doing a great job here at this point. Keep seeing Mardan taking that little bit of a look down to the junkyard turn, but this time coming through turn 8, looked like he lost a little bit of speed. He's not clearly closed up behind, but you can see on the straightaways, Mardan shrinking that frame, not necessarily using it. There's that little bit of communication. Elefante tapping the back of the helmet saying, all right, let's work together here. But I got to say here, Paul, working together is not helping you as that gap continues to grow up to Danilo Romalo, as it looks like it is now ballooned up to 2.9 seconds, call it 3 whole seconds.
I mean, Romalo just keeps going purple every lap. Like, I mean, seriously, every lap he goes, the momentum of that car is just going and going and going. So what's interesting here is you have 2 totally different body sets, too. Like Paul is Elefante's Paul, and then you have Mardan, who's very short. So it's very interesting to see the 2 out there, and it's funny, it's like when Mardan's cart is behind Elefante's, you just don't see anybody.
Right. And how much of a difference does that play? I mean, normally when we talk about, Micro, the Mini, the Junior, we're talking about relatively similar body styles, but obviously wider disparity here in the Masters and Super Masters.
It makes a huge difference. Talking to Scott Falcone about him losing about 30 to 40 pounds, it's even like taller drivers, you got to think about that. That's movable weight. Like, that weight is moving. You hit a bump, and that's weight that's moving that cart around to where everyone's like, oh, the weight is X. It's like, yeah, but I can statically put weight on a cart where I need to put it, where my upper body is going to be moving constantly, so it causes the cart to really mess around it. And from personal experience, when I was heavy racing and when I got in really good racing shape, it was night and day the way the cart.
All right, note to self, if I ever take this up again, I'm going to have to do a little bit of work on my body. But right now, Mardan's still trying to get on by Elefante. I got to give Elefante credit. He's not driving overly defensively. I think he's got it in the concept in the back of his brain that obviously Mardan is behind him. He knows he's there, but I'm not seeing ridiculously defensive lines out of that Rocket racing machine. He's just driving pretty much how he wants to drive and keeping Mardan behind him as such.
Yeah, I mean, it's nothing that he needs to defend on. He's faster in the passing zones than Mardan, so that's what was allowing him to kind of little defense there. But Mardan just has some really fast straight line speed. So what I'm thinking is they're on probably a little bit different gear ratio.
Okay.
Paul is set up for maybe the midfield, the tighter section, to get that cart up and going, where Mardan maybe has his cart set up to kind of flow in faster speeds down the straightaway. Thinking that maybe, starting on the outside pole, if he could get checked out with Romalo, then they could draft together, and that's why you kind of want that taller gear on the cart.
And that's something they'll be able to change tomorrow.
If he needs to. I mean, he's going to be – what's nice, though, is Mardan will be – if they finish this way, he'll be starting behind Romalo he'll be starting on the outside. You're right.
He'll be starting on the outside.
It's not progressive.
Yeah.
So, but it's interesting, 2 different lines as they go through there. Paul allows his cart to kind of float up there, while Mardan takes a much tighter line. seems to be a faster line, but just the angle is bad.
Yeah, and you know, that's really become, I think, Bergman last time out when we were here showed that that can be a passing zone. And I really get the sense that a lot of other drivers have taken note of that. We've seen this year in particular, since Bergman made that move, that has become a little bit more favored of an opportunity, a little bit more of a favored area for these drivers. And so them trying to put their muscle in there is showing out.
Yeah, I think that, you know, I think it was either Jack or Nico Kotowski said that. He's like, well, I saw Bergman put the move on there, so I knew it could be done. So, and me and, you know, Jackson were talking about that. And a lot has to do with the Levanto tires, too. You know, a little bit different compound this year, so as they're going into that, the tire just sticks a little bit better. So you're allowed to put that kart in positions that normally your tire would break and give away and really lose some momentum. But now the Levantos are just holding to the tarmac and allowing you to just get that kart rotated and moving.
Well, talking about different lines there, Martin taking what I would call a little bit more of a lower horsepower, lower energy line, carrying as much momentum around the outside. Martin cutting a little bit closer through 1 and 2, maybe trying to get that passing angle, but at the same time, and he's doing it again there into turn 6, that it looks like Elefante is just a lot more fluid with his motions. He's letting the momentum roll through the corner, and Martin being a little bit more aggressive. Here comes the move to the inside. He thought about it. He's going for it. Down to the inside, gets it done. That was a long time coming for Lorenzo Martin, but finally gets it done over Paul Elefante.
Yeah, we'll see if he can do it. I thought he may be able to do it, but I you know, Paul driving a great race, and I obviously wasn't holding Martin up. Martin had to kind of force that move there as we're going, but let's see, you know, if he's going to be able to kind of pull himself away from Elefante with 2 to go.
Yeah, he's got a little bit, call it about 2 kart lengths of a difference as they dive down into turn 4. Obviously, accordioning there a little bit back and forth as they come down now into 5. Let's see. Coming down through there, Elefante's keeping pace. I mean, he's not letting it go. Differing lines again down into turn 6. Through turn 8, the junkyard turn they go. Let's see where that pops out. A little bit of a look behind Elefante. Said, just go. Just go. It's, those are experienced karters there that know how to communicate very well.
Yeah, he's just like, listen, I'm not going to try, you know, no need to block. Just go. I'm not going to try to put it in on you. Like, again, this could be that different line there. Paul definitely went way wide there, but you know, no need to push it. You know, Martin maybe has a little bit more pace than you do, and there's nobody behind you. Yeah. So, you know, we talk about saving your tires, saving your equipment, and that's exactly what Elefante is doing here.
Well, that's a great point to bring up. Only 2 sets of Levantos used this entire weekend. The majority of the field, what you're going to see them do is use those sets today and tomorrow leading into the pre-final. And then on Sunday, crack out those fresh Levantos and have a good time with it. The only exception to that, because it looks like we're going to have clear weather, so we're not going to have to worry about that, is maybe you're a little bit farther back at the pre-final, need to make up some positions.
Yep, absolutely. So, and speaking of making up positions, right there, Scott Falcone, who had a pretty awful start, is all the way back up to 5th now and leading his class over Alexander Dalbon. So Scott must have got his demons figured out at the beginning of this race and has done a good job at working his way back up through the field.
Yeah, good job there for him, and great job for Danilo Romalo, who was able to take victory. Martin Elefante 2nd and 3rd. That's going to be your podium in the Masters category with Ale Javier able to hold on. There comes Scott Falcone, still digging at the line. He'll come across to take P5 overall and 1st in that Super Masters class, followed by Delbon and Barrios, Dan Devereaux, Gabriel De Luca, Jorge Matos, and Alejandro Gonzalez going to round out your top 11. Saldana only able to recover up to 12. I think he's going to be, I don't want to say the fly in the ointment, but I'm very interested to see what he'll be able to do tomorrow.
Yeah, I think probably a little frustration got played in there, you know, and when you do that, you're trying to get yourself back up to the field as fast as you can, so you do overdrive. And when you overdrive, that just is not good for any time of trying to make up some pace and positions on the track. So, but hey, we'll see. He, like you said, he gets to start back up in his better spot here tomorrow on Heat 2 and see what he can do. Get a good start there, keep himself clean, no wrecks, no issues, and, you know, you can have one bad and still come out pretty good.
Yeah, Yeah, you really can. I mean, that's the way that this point scoring system does tend to lead for you. We'll stay with you here because we are race ready through the end of the day. So that means that these next round of karts, which will be the ROK VLR Junior, for the final heat race of the day, they'll come right on out. And there you go. Beautiful view down on our staging area. As we take a live look, Orsilon there, Franco Escoto, getting a few pieces of advice in the final rounds on that Orsilon.
Yep. Butterflies are going a little bit there. Always happens before a
Yep.
little bit of a race, but as soon as those shields go down and those motors are fired, they usually go away. Interesting thing. I get more nervous racing a remote-controlled car. Dude, last night I had sweat dripping out of my armpit, and shaking.
Really?
By the way, I got my first win last night
Hey!
on the 10th scale buggy, so I was happy with that. But yeah, no, it's interesting. And I was talking to a buddy of mine who's raced motocross and all that kind of stuff. And he's like, yeah, he goes, you don't have anywhere to put your energy when you're up there. Like when you're driving, your energy is input to it and you're doing it. And I was like, oh, that makes a lot of sense. But yeah, it's crazy. I mean, especially these young kids, they've got so many races under their belts that it's going to be interesting to see. Is that Eric right there in the hots?
No, I think that's
834. Nope, Carney. Okay.
Carney, yeah. I was going to say, I was like, I think that was Carney.
Yeah.
But yeah, these drivers are getting ready to head out here. Another 9 plus 2 laps. That'll be what it is through tomorrow. We'll up that a little bit for the pre-final, and then, of course, we will up that again for the finals on Sunday. Yeah, I had a driver tell me once that I was talking to him, and they said, you always get nervous. You always get nervous. But the difference between a young driver and an experienced driver is exactly what you said, Jason. It's snapping that visor down and letting the butterflies run away.
Yeah, yeah. I don't think I've ever been nervous when you get on track. It's that waiting there that you're sitting there thinking, and that's what makes you not necessarily too nervous, but just a little bit of butterfly. Like, okay, then all of a sudden you start thinking, okay, did I do this? Did I do that? Did I make sure they tighten my wheel nuts up?
Right.
Is my hubs tight? Is this motor going to be great? And then nothing's worse than leading a race, and then you start hearing some different things, and your karts start happening. It's like, I've lost several races because God love my dad who's up in heaven right now, but either forgot to tighten my wheel nuts or my motor came off or something, and it's like, ugh. But, it's part of that. But let's see what's going on here. I don't know what's going on with our race-ready timing and scoring, but we'll soon find out. Always a fun class.
Yep.
The VLR Junior. The seniors always put on a great show. The masters always put on a great show. But, the juniors definitely do a great job.
Yeah, there's a scrappiness, a desire to prove yourself, I think, that comes out here a little bit in the junior category that really brings things along and makes things quite spectacular to be able to see, and that always makes me pretty happy. I always like also, cheering for the young guys, being able to watch the stars of the future work their way up and on through. It's one of the reasons I love working with Indy Next, and then, of course, alongside Rob Howden, who joined us in ROK Vegas. Always great to be able to see the next step for a lot of these drivers, which is, moving on into USF Juniors and USF Pro and those kind of things as they get their way forward. Always kind of fun to see.
Yeah, it was interesting. I was kind of back and forth with something on social media with somebody, and wasn't bickering about it, but I kind of made the remark, like, karting is not a destination sport anymore. Like, something, we were watching a race that happened last week, and there's just a ton of blocking, and the racecraft is just not good. Pushing kids off the track, it's not what we used to not see. It's just interesting, but again, it's like people are trying to make a name for themselves as fast as they can. Very seldom does someone look, 2 hours after a race to see if people DQ'd or not DQ'd or penalties. Yep. You see exactly what we're watching right now. It's like, oh, Johnny won, but yet you didn't know Johnny has a 5-second penalty, so he really didn't win.
Right.
So, get back to that, Indy Next and all that kind of stuff. This isn't a destination sport. Yeah. Will they find their way back to karting? Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Always. I love karting. I went and ran some other stuff, nothing big, but got myself out of karting. But my love is always with karting, and just because it is, to me, the truest form of auto sports racing.
Well, and I think it goes back to, I've talked at length about this. There's the great quote from Senna that he was asked who his greatest competitor was. And, everybody's sitting there going, okay, is it going to be Lance Prost? Who are you going to say, or how hard are you going to say Alain Prost? He referred back to a guy who I can't remember his name that he fought against in karting in Brazil.
I think it was in the. I remember that in the movie.
It's in the documentary
yeah.
that they surfaced it, and it goes back to that. And I think it even goes back to the recent comments that caused a little bit of a stir that Max Verstappen said when asked about karting versus sim racing. That I think karting is such a unique sport. It is different than driving a full-size car. You have a different feel in the kart, and it really is a skill unto itself. To be able to do well in karting. Does it transfer on to other echelons of racing? 100%. But to do well in a kart is something you should be proud of in and of itself.
Oh, absolutely. I agree. That's well said there, DJ. And, it's when you get into a suspension vehicle, it's a completely different game.
Exactly.
So it's definitely interesting. But as we go here, our final race of the day, 9+2. Mal cut up top, or Bezo second.
And here we go. Great start around the outside there for Nico Orbezo, and chaos, calamity farther back in the field.
Who is that? The 834
and the 830
of Nolan Carney
well.
in the HOTS driver development team.
We've got bumpers being flung away from the track there. My goodness gracious. I'm sure we'll get a replay of that pulled up in due course. My eyes were fixed forward up in the field, so didn't necessarily see what happened, but wow, nearly a full track blockage there as everybody sorted their way through. But we've got to go back and look at the front of the field here and talk about this young driver in the lead, Nico Orbezo, doing what we have not seen a lot of drivers do, and that is make it work around the outside of turn 1, lap 1.
Yeah, he absolutely did. Great way to hit it. He got a great jump off that start. Again, got the kart stuck on the outside and was able to kind of work his way back down to the inside. But yeah, let's get a replay on that. What happened at that start to see if we can catch it.
All right, this is going to be in the outside lane here, I think, where the majority of the chaos starts. Looks like,
834 kind of got shuffled to the middle, tried to make his way back down low, and there was just no real estate there, and just everyone else just got kind of backed up and front bumper off. And here we go. But there's a name there in that third spot that does not look real familiar to me.
No, Emilio Bolanos did not race with us last time out here at the Florida Winter Tour. I believe he is a new entry. I'd have to rack my brain, look at some entry sheets to see if Emilio was with us last year or with us at Vegas, but I don't believe that is the case in either way, shape, or form. Now, I will say there was some passing that went on a little farther back in the field, as there's a nice little move. Cole Anderson, I think that was Maxwell Macha, being able to send a move there on Tristan Murphy in the 811. Orbezo continues to lead from Malkut, and it's a pair of couplets here with Orbezo and Malkut, Bolanos and Murphy, and here comes the battle across the line right now. It's Murphy and Macha. Anderson making a good move.
Yeah, looking back in the field, there's your round 1 winner, Nico Kotowski, sitting back at 8th. Again, the TKG karts didn't get great qualifying. Him or his brother didn't qualify very well, but again, we saw what they did in round 1, worked their way up, ended up getting double wins, and then right behind Nico is Cam Johnson. This is Cam's second race, in the big karts for ROK. Moved up from the a little bit smaller kiddo karts.
Yep.
The cadet karts, and again, Cam was one of them. It's like, there's just, it's funny how much extra room you need to make these karts, make the pass with these karts, the things you don't really think about. And me and Jackson were talking about that earlier. But as we're working through here, look like Orbezo still up front, challenged by Malka, and with Murphy in tow. See what happens as we cross the stripes.
All right, looks like here at this point we've got a little bit of a run starting to take place, but it sounds like we've got to go down to pit lane. Jackson Lambros on the spot.
Frustration for the start of the weekend for Maddox Ruiz, the Norberg Academy driver. Unfortunately, was able to clear that turn 1 incident, but with a front bumper fully off, is very frustrated to meet the Masters here in the scales. Just talking to him briefly, he is tired of these cadets getting all the credit right now for the Norberg Academy guys, and unfortunately, it's going to have to wait until Saturday for him to really flex that pace. DJ?
Awesome. Thank you.
Thank you, Jackson. And yeah, I can imagine that. He got something to prove. Good move to the inside for Murphy. That's going to be a 2-for-1 as Anderson follows him on through. Good runs there.
We've got a little bit of couple triplets going on here. Breakout groups as they're going, but we've seen this before, and the time that, Urbezo is going to probably have to start playing a little defense move right there on Malcut, that will allow that back trio to kind of work their way back up to their rear bumpers, and I'm not going to be surprised with probably 3 to 4 to go that we're not going to see a 6-car battle for the lead.
Yeah, I think that's about right.
Maybe 7, actually.
I do think this battle that's taking place a little bit farther back in the fields here, that's the 806 and the 805. That's about 4th or 5th play, the 803, excuse me. That's Anderson and Orioli duking it out. Bolanos in there as well. I do think that battle is stopping them from really catching up to the back of the group. It's Orioli and Bolanos that were fighting there directly behind Tristan Murphy. Cole Anderson checked out a little bit farther. He's up in a little bit of a couplet with Macha up in front.
Yeah, I saw Bolanos kind of give a little bit of a hand gesture, like, what are you doing? Like, this isn't doing us any good. Like, let's just go type of a deal. So maybe that kind of got to them so they can work together and end up going up there and see if they can run down that top group.
Yeah, Bolanos holding on to P5 right now. P5, or P6, excuse me, Orioli behind him. This is the battle that we follow. Murphy leads this pack. A little bit of a look to the inside there for Bolanos. Good line for him to try to take away a little bit of time, but I'm not sure it's going to be enough to be able to go. Here they come down into turn 6 on the spot there. I believe that is our Jason Moria being able to get us some great pictures of them diving down into turn 6 as now they come through the junkyard turn and down that straightaway. Good tuck here for Bolanos. He's starting to put some pressure to the back of Tristan Murphy.
Yeah, definitely. Oh, made the late move. I did not see that coming. Great move.
I think there was a little bit of contact there. I think that may have been, as they said last week in North Wilkes-Barre and Bowman Gray, a little bit of a bump and run.
A little bit of a bump and run. There we go. All right, let's see where the gap is here as we go across. So Anderson to 3, about 2 seconds separates the two. So let's see where they're at with another lap down. 3 to go as we're going into 4 here. So that's the closest battle on the track that we have. But looks like Bolanos worked his way around. A little bit better pace right now, putting a little bit of space between himself and Tristan.
Yeah, he's starting to pull away a little bit from Cole Anderson and close up to the back here of Macha and Malkin. Let's see if he's got enough to be able to really make this play. Up front, it continues to be Urbezo and Malkin.
Staying status quo for those two. They're just kind of playing cat and mouse. This kind of nose to tail, understanding there's plenty of racing to go. Battling each other isn't going to do any good for us right now. So, but I have a feeling that that's going to probably stop here in about a couple minutes.
I think when we get that, I think if Malkin's able to stay close behind here, when we see that twin sticks, that could be the go sign for him. But I think what's holding Malkin back is the fact that Macha and Anderson not too far behind. They've got to try to push their way. They've got to try to work together a little bit, Urbezo and Malkin, to make sure that battle doesn't fire off and close in on the backup.
Oh, yeah, absolutely. And we'll see what they can do here as we're going through one of the higher passing zones on the track, heading down to 9. Little look over his shoulder there to Malkut. Do notice that there's quite a bit of gap there. Where was that gap at between the two? Stayed exactly the same pretty much between Anderson and Bolanos. Between 4th and 5th there.
Yeah. Interestingly, though, the gap between Murphy and Bolanos has ballooned. It's up to about a half a second. So definitely some time gained there for Bolanos, but it is absolutely where it was. He's not gaining ground on these 4 leaders.
No, not at all. But, you know, that's a good run so far for Bolanos. A new name to the game. A little bit, I think he's dropped a couple spots, but, you know, do your laps, get your time in, bring that cart in one piece. Do not get a DNF.
No.
Last thing you need, and just kind of work your way through the field and the semi-pro, or the semi, and get yourself set up for the main on Sunday. But protect those Levanto tires, as we've always been kind of talking about here. They're your best friend through these 3 heats and a pre-final.
And especially if you've got the pace that you're exhibiting here in this first heat, then you definitely start to think, okay, I'm not going to need to use that fresh set of Levantos for the pre-final.
Yeah.
In which case, you've got to be thinking, okay, I got to make them last for another round.
Yeah.
So you're already doing a little bit of that mental math. Good battle here. Macha, Anderson starting to fire off. This is for the final podium position.
Yeah, I'm looking at that. I think that's going to be about another. I think it's going to happen at the same time that Malkit, makes that move on Orbezo on top. The same thing's going to happen with Anderson and Macha.
And this will be coming to those twin sticks this time by. It will be 2 to go as the clock is due and now does strike 0. There you see the counter. 3 laps to go. Call it 2.5 as they come down the back straightaway. Again, that duck.
Oh, here's the
for
move.
Malkit here. He's thinking about the inside. Here comes Anderson. Slick as you please. Gets it done. Move Cole Anderson into 3rd.
Yeah, it has Cole Anderson and a Norberg Karting, but that is not the livery of Norberg Karting, so I'm kind of interested to see. Oh, going to go down to Jackson here real quick. Jackson, you there, buddy?
I am, and I've got an answer for you immediately. So that is indeed a Lotus 98T John Player special livery. That is actually not his idea, but actually his dad's. But he grew up in kid karts having a gold and black livery. Dad grew up loving Andretti racing in Formula One. They matched the best of both worlds. Kids based out of Bay Area here in California, or out in California, will plan on running ROK Vegas, but mostly staying to the West Coast. This being one of the few extracurriculars he's doing this year. Guys.
Oh, fantastic. Good stuff, Jackson. Thank you.
I appreciate that you signaled out there Mario running that, because if that course could have applied to many future and reigning world champions, including Fittipaldi and Senna, who both ran that livery as well. A white flag in the air. Orbezo continues to lead, and, well, it is now or never time if your name is Isaac Malkit in the 870.
Yeah, where you're just going to be comfortable being in second. We'll kind of see. He's not really in striking mode right now, like not close enough. Orbezo's doing a really good job at kind of keeping him at bay. Got a cart link to 2 cart links back, where it would really have to be a dive bomb move by Malkit to make that stick. And I don't think he wants to risk that right now, this early in the weekend.
No, and I think it is a risk. As you said, it is a big risk to try to make that move. And yeah, he's just going to stay in line, not seeing a big move down into turn 9. They get themselves sorted out. Seeing those 2 couplets just up at the front of the field, everything nice and easy. Orbezo controlling the pace out of the final corner, and with the Lando Norris tribute helmet, it will be Orbezo, but it will be the Lando Norris car in P2. Anderson with a great drive in P3. Macha and Bolanos, the new kid on the block, round out your top 5.
Yeah, kind of an uneventful race there,
yeah.
But like we've seen it today. Like, it's been a lot of just guys just kind of just buying their time. No need to be impatient right now. Get as best finishing position that you can, and then you can strap up the gloves and the boots tomorrow and go race a little bit harder.
Well, I think part of that is that as opposed to last time out, where the conditions were so unpredictable, so chilly, we didn't know how the karts were going to respond. It was very, very difficult. Conditions are a little bit more traditional this weekend, where they're a little bit more expected, and so I think you're seeing a little bit more of that patience come through, and it is going through in the races. Jackson, our man on the spot, looks like he's got the heads up from your winner, Nico Orbezo. We'll send it down to Jackson Lambros.
And after a couple of weeks of fighting for it, Nico Orbezo finally able to come out on top in heat number 1. We'll start with this. Small team with Iron Rock Motorsports, but what's feeling right behind the wheel of this Tony kart?
I mean, we have it dialed in since last week. Just really good. Keep the setup from last week and just drive it.
I know last weekend, not the way things wanted to go for you on final Sunday. How much of a confidence booster is it for you to start things off with a win here?
It's really good because I had no draft. It's a lot of fun.
Congrats, Nico.
Thank you.
Guys.
All right, thank you, Jackson. I appreciate that.
Just drive it. I'm putting that above my sim rig. That is my new motto. There, great words from Nico Orbezo. And folks, that's going to wrap up our coverage of day 1 here for ROK Cup's Florida Winter Tour at the Orlando Karting Center. It's been a pleasure to have you along for the racing action all day long. We are going to be back tomorrow, as you can imagine. That'll be kicking off at about 9 o'clock, there or thereabouts. And then we'll be running throughout the rest of the day up to about 4:40. Call it about 5 o'clock is when we'll get done. We'll be back at you again about 9 o'clock on Sunday for the finals. But on behalf of the entire team here, Hacker, Bob, Jason, Andrew, all of our guys, Blake, around the track, it has been an absolute pleasure to bring you the racing action. On behalf of our commentators, Jackson, Jason, and myself, DJ Clark, we will see you tomorrow.